Marvel. Starting with the super soldier serum. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51. The Avengers' First Dinner. The process of crossing is very strange. Just like passing through a foggy passage. Suddenly switched to a colorful world, then everything in front of you was reorganized bit by bit and turned into objects. Anyway, for Qin Xiao, this process is more like waking up from motion sickness and hangover. There is no such majestic atmosphere in fantasy novels that breaks through the barriers of the world and everything is at your feet. Back to the secret room built by Tony, Qin Xiao sat on the computer desk for a while. Then he slowly got up and carefully visited his house. To be honest, compared with the housing prices in first-tier cities in China before crossing, the housing prices in Los Angeles are not very high. Less than $2 million were spent, and a high-rise apartment with one floor and one household, with a space of nearly 400 square meters. Although it is more than 10 million when converted into Chinese currency, there is still a price difference here. Although the housing price is not expensive, Qin Xiao's single-person property has to pay an additional tax of nearly $100,000 to the government every year. Otherwise, I always heard that it is easy to buy a big house in the United States, but it is difficult to maintain a big house. Sure enough, it is still the traditional thinking of the Chinese people. It feels more like home when I return here. House. It seems that I should buy a house in Shanghai next time I go back. Speaking of this house, according to the time here, today is my new house. I have to treat everyone to a meal. 30% of it is to promote the traditional virtues of China, 20% to show off my luxurious new house, and 50% to kill time. Qin Xiao sent a text message to almost everyone he knew in this world. The content is as follows. Hi, this is Qin Xiao. Today I moved to a new house. According to the tradition of Chinese people, moving to a new house requires treating friends to a meal. So I decided to hold a grand Chinese-style banquet at my house tomorrow night, at 1900 hours. Everyone is welcome to come to my house as a guest. P.S. Another tradition of Chinese people is that friends who move to buy a house need to buy gifts and hongbao when visiting. You can Google the meaning of hongbao by yourself. In addition, a warm reminder, hongbao is available in Chinatown. Attached is a screenshot of the electronic map mark point. To be honest, Qin Xiao is not very good at cooking. It's okay to make one or two simple home-cooked dishes, but it's really not good enough to host a banquet. But China has thousands of years of culture, so you can't host a dinner without knowing how to cook. Want to learn about hot pot? A trip to Chinatown. All the base and dipping sauces are available, and even a lot of messy Chinese-style seasonings are bought. You don't have to use some things, but you must have them at home, at least to have a little bit of life. Double-flavored hot pot, lamb slices and beef. Qin Xiao finally understood why Chinese people can't leave Chinatown when they are abroad. The various things you can buy in one block here are definitely more than what you can buy in a large supermarket in China. From all kinds of snacks, tang suits, martial arts training, Guangdong morning tea and Szechuan hot pot, from pickled mustard and fried dough sticks to raccoon instant noodles. There are bone-setting halls, mahjong halls, and even funeral clothes and wreaths. If you are a otaku, you can hide at home every day and go downstairs to buy whatever you need. It's basically not much different from being in China. It's just that most of the dishes in some restaurants have been westernized and slightly different from the domestic flavor. I bought a lot of things. I took them home in big and small bags. I boiled water to rinse the base ingredients, washed and cut the vegetables and arranged them on the table. I also washed a lot of fruits and arranged them. Let's not talk about how to entertain guests. After all that, the house suddenly became more popular. Perfect. Qin Xiao, who had been busy all afternoon, picked up an apple casually and ate it while waiting for the red envelope. Oh no, the guests came, but the first guest made Qin Xiao a little unexpected. Dr. Banner. Qin Xiao had never sent him a text message. It should be said that since he was taken away by the shield, Qin Xiao did not have his contact information. Sitting on the sofa, looking at the picture outside the door displayed on the opposite wall. Nicole, Open the door. Yes, sir. The convenience of the housekeeper was revealed. Hi, Dr. Banner. Welcome to my home. Even if they are not familiar with each other, Qin Xiao always has to welcome them warmly when they come to his own home. Banner is an honest man. Although Qin Xiao was mysterious and shot himself in the desert last time, it is obvious that Hulk is more suitable than himself in that situation. Seeing Qin Xiao's enthusiasm, Banner took out a bottle of red wine a little embarrassedly. I have been controlling it well recently. I haven't transformed for a long time. They said there is an Avengers plan, so I came to cultivate tacit understanding with you first. But Agent Romanov said that you are moving. According to Chinese tradition, you have to give gifts. I brought a bottle of wine. Didn't she say anything else to you? Qin Xiao looked at his hand. Only red wine but no red envelope. No. Is there anything I need to know? She is still parking downstairs. Banner pointed down a little restrainedly. Nothing. Nothing. Qin Xiao was too shameless to kill this honest man who is now homeless. He warmly invited Banner to sit down. A few minutes later, Black Widow also came up. Hey, stop looking, Qin. I picked up Dr. Banner from Canada today. I don't have time to go to Chinatown to buy red envelopes. I don't know what gift to give you. This will be the gift. The Black Widow knew what Qin Xiao was thinking when she saw him looking at her. She pulled Qin Xiao over and kissed him on the cheek. Okay. Qin Xiao spread his hands helplessly. Beauty always has privileges. But if the next person who comes doesn't prepare a red envelope, I curse their anus to burst. I don't know if it was a coincidence or Qin Xiao had a big face. Tony, the workaholic, put down his research on the new element, and even Nick Fury put down his work and came over, with Hawkeye. Of course, Agent Coulson, who was always sitting in Los Angeles with a smile on his face, was indispensable. Well, the 6 superheroes of the first generation of the Avengers, except for Captain America who was still frozen and Thor who was a naughty child in Asgard, all came together at once. But without exception, no one of these people gave Qin Xiao a red envelope. Some gave wine, some gave paintings, and the most amazing one was Hawkeye, who gave Qin Xiao an arrow. What do I use this thing for? As a scratcher? Qin Xiao complained as he scratched his back with the arrow. Since you are also stingy, don't blame me for turning my back on you. Qin Xiao complained in his heart, and while the fire was on, he added 2 packets of spicy hot pot base to the clear water pot of the double-flavored pot. Chapter 52 The Power of Spicy Hot Pot. Although in this world, Qin Xiao is not as rich as in the real world, but he also has millions of dollars in his card. So for the food ingredients, no matter whether it is right or not, just choose the most expensive one. As for hot pot, the cooking skills are not important. As long as the ingredients are good, it is a top-notch meal. Anyway, for these foreigners, this meal brought them an experience they have never had before. Even Tony, who has eaten and seen it before, was sweating and praising it. If it is too spicy, take a sip of ice beer. It is really amazing. Qin, I think you are too stingy. Even if Banner brought you a gift of red wine, you don't have to hold the red wine and drink it all the time. Hot pot is more suitable for ice beer. Nick Fury rarely relaxed so much, and said to Qin Xiao while hissing. In response, Qin Xiao just smiled mysteriously and didn't say much. He just muttered to himself in his heart, a bunch of barbarians. You dared to eat this spicy hot pot with cold beer for the first time. I haven't eaten it for so long that I dare not do that. I'll see how your stomachs will turn upside down and Uranus will burst tonight. I'll let you come to my house without red envelopes. While cursing viciously in his heart, he glanced at the Black Widow who was also sweating profusely. Qin Xiao took out a bottle of black herbal tea from somewhere. He took the beer from the Black Widow. Try this. What is this? It looks like Coke without carbon dioxide. The Black Widow took it and took a sip. It tastes a bit weird, although the current cold dishes are added with a lot of messy things to improve the taste. But in China, some places in the north where people don't drink herbal tea very much, most people are not used to drinking it, let alone foreigners. This is a good thing. It's for beauty and skin care. I went to Chinatown to buy it today. Believe me. Qin Xiao winked at the Black Widow mischievously. The meal lasted nearly 2 hours, and a group of people who were enough to destroy a small country in many ways collapsed on the sofa in a shabby state without any image. Except that Black Widow was a woman, She was a little concerned about her figure and didn't eat so much. Seeing a group of people eating like this, it was quite natural to take on the responsibility of cleaning the table. Anyway, in order to save trouble, Qin Xiao bought disposable tableware in Chinatown today. Just put everything in the garbage bag, except for the pot, which was a little troublesome, but this instantly made Qin Xiao feel like a big man. Bringing a group of friends home for dinner. After the meal, a group of people sat and boasted, while his wife cleaned up in the kitchen. So looking at the busy Black Widow, Qin Xiao sat up straighter. Qin, Dr. Banner should have told you why he came. The Avengers project has officially begun. After you get familiar with each other, I will arrange a mission for you to practice. Agent Romanov has found a base for you. You can go there together in a while. Nick Fury, who no longer played cool and collapsed on the sofa like a wretched old man, said, "My focus of work in the future may be on New York. As you know, Stark Industries no longer manufactures weapons. We want to do new energy and finance. New York may be more suitable than Los Angeles. In fact, Tony has bought a piece of land in New York and is building a new Stark building. At present, he has not handed over the position of chairman to Pepper, and he is still quite busy, especially since Obadiah just died not long ago, and the board of directors has a lot of messy things. It just so happens, Stark, your base is in New York." Nick Fury snapped his fingers and said, "Fuck." Qin Xiao sat up straight. He knew that the focus would definitely be in New York in the future, but it would not be so fast. "I just bought a house. Do you know how much effort I put into decorating my house? Do you know how hard I worked to buy a big house in downtown Los Angeles? I just slept in this house for one night. Damn it, I don't have the money to buy another house in New York. To be precise, the money you used to buy the house was won by Agent Romanov in the casino, and the chips you used were given by Stark. The decoration and furniture were all done by Stark. It's like you just picked up a house." Although Nick Fury only had one eyeball exposed, the contempt in his eyes was conveyed quite well. "No, I asked for a salary increase. I was pulled from the West Coast to the East Coast alive. The Pacific Ocean at the door has become the Atlantic Ocean. I will not be able to adapt to the climate." Qin Xiao put on a rogue look. "Don't worry, this time the salary will definitely satisfy everyone." Nick Fury showed a mysterious smile. Even in the Marvel movie world, there are not so many world crises. What's more, this is in the early stage. Putting aside some hidden forces, Odin and Gui are two father-level masters. One is in Asgard, blocking the forces in the universe from coveting the entire 9 realms. The other relies on the magic circle formed by the 3 major temples in New York, London and Hong Kong to isolate other space creatures from spying on the Earth. So even Qin Xiao didn't know what target Nick Fury would find for them. But judging from the mysterious words and flickering eyes of this old guy, he must be holding back something good. The meal was quite enjoyable. After the meeting, Qin Xiao wanted to take the widow out for a stroll and cultivate some feelings. But Nick Fury took him away on the grounds that he had a mission. This damned egghead, he must have never had a woman in his life. "I suspect that the photo frame on his bedside table is a big and strong man. This damn bastard," Qin Xiao complained to Tony, the only one left. "That's right, my friend. Not everyone has a photo with a genius playboy in their bedroom," Tony said shamelessly. Qin Xiao thought of the huge composite photo of him and Tony making the scissors hand gesture on the bedside of his bedroom. He was completely speechless. That night, Tony, who always liked to work in the underground garage, went directly to the luxurious bathroom at home. Hawkeye was on the plane flying to Washington, and he never left the bathroom. The worst were Coulson and Nick Fury. Black Widow did have a mission and left first. The two of them took Dr. Banner and temporarily lived in the Los Angeles branch. It was a little after 3 in the morning. Coulson and Nick Fury stood in the branch that was almost in ruins. Next to him was Dr. Banner, who was lying on the ground and had finally controlled his transformation. "Qin Xiao, you are a damn bastard. Damn it, the power of spicy hot pot is so terrifying." Qin Xiao's curse was fulfilled. Chrysanthemum burst. Qin Xiao turned over in the bedroom with Tony and his own photos hanging on the wall. "I don't know what I dreamed about, but I suddenly laughed like a pig." Chapter 53, The self-funded Avengers. Nicaragua is one of the largest ports in Mexico. It is one of the largest trade ports on the east coast of South America. In this country that is almost completely infiltrated by drug dealers, it has naturally become one of the largest drug trade ports. The economic value created by the drugs that go to Europe through here every year is so great that even the inhumane super-rich Tony Stark would be amazed. The huge amount of wealth generated by drugs not only corrupts the government of this country, but also gives birth to many drug dealers with their own armies. So, any big drug dealer who is famous in Mexico has an army in his hands that can directly dominate a small country in Africa. And this time, Qin Xiao and others' target is one of the largest drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. The battle lineup is Qin Xiao, Tony, Black Widow and Hawkeye. Support: Dr. Banner. Logistics and Command: good old man Coulson. Do you know who the drug dealers here welcome the most? Coulson, the leader of the action, said to everyone with a smile while standing in the bridge of the submarine. Corrupt drug police or their government officials? Banner asked in cooperation. It's Tony Stark. The weapons from the Stark Group are what they dream of. From Obadiah's large amount of criminal records, there is evidence of arms exchanges with Mexican drug lords. However, due to the CIA's suppression of Mexican drug dealers, Obadiah dare not sell large quantities of arms to drug dealers here. Coulson smiled and pointed at Tony, who was bowing his head and saying nothing. First of all, I have no idea what Obadiah has done. Another point is that Stark Industries no longer produces any weapons. He shrugged to show his innocence. Tony couldn't help but speak again. To be honest, although I joined the Avengers plan, it was to come out when the world encounters danger. Even if we need to train our tacit understanding, there are terrorists outside, such as in the Middle East. Why do we have to go to Mexico to arrest drug dealers? That's the job of the Drug Enforcement Police, man. In fact, not only Tony, but even Hawkeye, who is completely in the system, looked disapproving. As a top agent, he has his own pride. For a man like him, dealing with drug dealers is indeed a bit of a waste of talent. You know, although he is known as the weakest in the Avengers, Hawkeye lost his relatives in the finger snap incident. He alone turned the local gangs in Japan and Mexico upside down. Nick's position determines that he can't put all his eggs in one basket. Your existence is top secret. Even within us, only a few of us know about it. You need special equipment, transportation, and funds. These cannot be transparent, so we have to find a few rich people to earn funds ourselves. Coulson explained to everyone with a smile. Don't look at this guy's hair. He is a superhero fan and has known Captain America since he was a child. Now he has a super special forces team in his hands. The sense of accomplishment is happier than growing hair. TSK. Qin Xiao also felt that fighting with drug dealers was a bit low class. He said with disdain, it's just the expenses for a few people. You three plus me can all get paid. Dr. Banner can find a part-time job with Tony. I don't need to say anything about Tony. It's nothing more than a place for a few people to eat and stay. At most, I will donate my salary. Qin Xiao was generous for once. I hope so too. If your salary is enough, let's not talk about anything else. It's just a Quinjet fighter, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars. If you donate 100 million, we will turn around and leave immediately. It's hasty. Sorry, I didn't say it, but you can find Tony. Qin Xiao pointed at Tony. The money for this guy to build a set of armor can last everyone for a long time. But to be honest, these drug dealers in Mexico have strong firepower and a large number of people. It is indeed a good place for everyone to practice. In addition, they have huge wealth in their hands and they are a huge threat to the entire human society. Nick has chosen a good target anyway. Otherwise, if we had hot pot a few days ago, the salary would definitely be increased. It turns out that he had thought about it long ago. These drug dealers have bribed most people in the government. There is no difference between coming by boat and entering through normal channels. So they kept a low profile and took a small anti-radar submarine. They approached an uninhabited beach in Nicaragua at night. The target was the mansion of the largest drug dealer in northern Mexico. The main goal this time was to burn their drugs and find the passwords of more than a dozen bank accounts hidden by this guy in Zurich. Coulson implemented the plan issued by Nick Fury very well, with Black Widow and Hawkeye as the center. Everyone sneaked in quietly, caught the drug dealers, burned their drug warehouses, and then evacuated quickly. Dr. Banner, who was too destructive, was left in the submarine as a secret weapon. If things get tricky or there are any changes, then release the beast to pick everyone up. The drug dealer's mansion is not far from the coastline. As long as there is a sea, the rich man's manor must be able to see the sea. This can be concluded from Tony. The nearly 10-meter-high wall is covered with dense electric grids. The area is almost as large as 100 acres. Every 20 or 30 meters, there is a sentry tower more than 2 meters higher than the wall. This is not a mansion. It is comparable to the most heavily guarded military bases and prisons Qin Xiao has ever seen. A few hundred meters away from the drug dealer's mansion, Black Widow took out a blueprint and gestured to everyone on the ground. The guards are too strict. It is almost impossible to enter quietly from the front. Celeste, the name of the big drug dealer's room, is here. This is also an area where he often moves. We can. Black Widow didn't finish her words. Tony, who knew the location of the drug dealer, flew out with a whoosh. Damn it, Stark, they don't know how many passages they have dug underground. If you rush in from the front, he will run away. Black Widow shouted angrily, but Iron Man's armor is so fast that it will soon approach this heavily guarded mansion. Damn it, Qin, you go. Qin? Black Widow looked around blankly, and there was no trace of Qin Xiao. Hawkeye pointed in the direction of the target mansion. Qin Xiao was seen running towards the mansion. His speed was even faster than Tony's battle armor. Dash. There will be another chapter in the evening. Please give me 5-star praise. Chapter 54. It's over if you're reckless. For God's sake, our plan is to sneak in and arrest people. Black Widow slapped her forehead with a weak palm. I expected it a long time ago. This is their way of expressing their dissatisfaction with the action. Activate the shielding device. I don't want the news about 2 superheroes robbing drug dealers to become the headlines tomorrow. Qin Xiao and Tony Stark are now 2 of the most famous people in the world. Qin Xiao is easy to say. No one can recognize him if he covers his face. But Iron Man's armor is too recognizable. They don't want to expose this team or the 2 of them, so they have already made preparations. Coulson's voice came from the headset. Let them go. You and Hawkeye pay attention to fill the gaps and don't let anyone run away. Our people in Mexico have already reached the periphery. Leave the rest to them. Sure enough, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are foolproof. Needless to say, the forces dispatched here were arranged by Nick Fury, and they are secret armed forces that are black households within S.H.I.E.L.D. Even though these drug dealers were well equipped and numerous, Iron Man was still stunned when he fell from the sky. He suddenly flew down from the sky in the middle of the night, wearing an invulnerable armor. Conventional weapons were of no use to him. These drug dealers, who were comparable to regular soldiers, didn't even have time to take out high-powered weapons to deal with them. The wall next to the gate collapsed to the ground with a bang. A thin-looking figure rushed in like a beast. Not only did he directly knock down the wall that was more than 10 meters high, but he also directly smashed several sentry towers next to it with his body. All the bullets that hit him bounced off directly. He was simply a human tank. It was a tank with huge horsepower and thick armor. As soon as Qin Xiao entered the battlefield, Tony in the sky immediately changed to cruise mode in tacit understanding. He kept circling around the manor house, not only eliminating some drug dealers who were hiding in the corners, but also eliminating them at fixed points. On the contrary, they accurately found the location where the drug dealers hid the arms and drugs. 2 micro-missiles were launched, directly igniting tons of drugs and gunpowder fireworks all over the sky. A sea of fire. The huge manor was reduced to half ruins in an instant. Tony in armor and the small Hulk Qin Xiao were simply a dimensionality reduction attack for the unprepared drug dealers. Anyway, when Black Widow and Hawkeye arrived, that was the scene in front of them. Hiss. The 2 took a breath. No technical content at all. Hawkeye curled his lips in disdain, but the envy in his eyes could not be hidden from Black Widow beside him. Which hot-blooded man doesn't like the reckless battle? It seems that our assessment of Qin's combat effectiveness is still weak. He is just like a shrunken Hulk, Black Widow also muttered. Then he spoke loudly into the headset. Don't fight too long. Stark has destroyed the arsenal. Leave the outside to us. Don't forget my goal. Don't let him escape from the tunnel. Don't worry, He can't run away. Tony Stark's confident voice came from the headset. Qin, go to Celeste's room and see if he is still there. Jarvis, scan the underground passages of this manor. No matter how secret the secret passages are, they cannot escape in front of Tony's powerful technological equipment. Qin Xiao just received the news that Celeste could not be found. The screen in Tony's mask has listed the distribution map of the underground secret passages. Sir, there are at least more than 10 secret passages under this manor, and there should be measures to shield thermal induction. Jarvis' words were transmitted to everyone's headsets at the same time. More than 10 secret passages. This is a bit exaggerated. Think of a way, Jarvis, Tony said without hesitation. Okay sir. Jarvis started scanning the underground secret passages again, and less than 30 seconds later, the conclusion came out. A passage was marked with a red line on the secret passage plan on Tony's screen. There is a certain amount of magnetic interference in this passage. It is probably because of heavy metal pouring. If I were the drug lord, I would definitely choose this one. Safety first, sir. I really don't know whether the heavy metal pouring will cause magnetic interference. Just assume it does and ignore the details. Haha, well done, Jarvis. Tony's armor flew directly outside the manor. The armor on his shoulder opened and an armor-piercing projectile was fired steadily at the ground. Tony was obviously well prepared. This micro-missile turned into a drill bit as soon as it touched the soil. It drilled into the ground fiercely. It drilled almost 4 or 5 meters deep, almost grinding a small pit in the steel inside, and then exploded. It lifted up a large piece of soil. I don't know how thick the steel poured by this drug lord was for the secret passage. Tony's special bomb only blew a hole several dozen centimeters thick on it. Qin, I didn't prepare so many missiles. The steel plate here can't be more than 1 meter thick, otherwise the rock layer below can't support it. Where's your weapon that can split steel? Here I am. Qin Xiao came upon hearing the sound, and after a few big jumps, he was already near the big pit blown up by Tony. After jumping down, he stopped talking nonsense, and took out his tang sword and stabbed it directly along the steel plate that had been blown off by the missile. A harsh metal friction sound rang out. The heavy steel plate met the amazing Qin Xiao and the tang sword that cut through iron like mud, and a square tile-sized skylight was cut out alive with a sound of teethache. A huge passage more than 2 meters high and almost 3 meters wide was revealed below. Drug lords are really rich, Qin Xiao muttered, and rushed into the passage in the opposite direction of the manor. I don't know if it's because there are too many secret passages under the manor, or because it avoids some underground sewers and other infrastructure. This passage is not straight, and Qin Xiao ran out more than 10 meters and encountered a turn. Qin Xiao was skilled and courageous, and he was not afraid of any ambush. He just rushed over. Da. He had just turned around and didn't even see what was going on over there. There was a sound of a rotating Gatling gun barrel and gunshots. The terrifying rate of fire almost instantly filled the entire passage with bullets. Fuck. Qin Xiao cursed in his heart and subconsciously stretched out his hand to protect his head. Although he was now invulnerable, being hit in the face by dense bullets was definitely not a pleasant experience. The sound of ding-dong was accompanied by sparks, and the bullets bounced back and forth between Qin Xiao's body and the steel plate of the passage. Damn it, I have to put this machine gun in your ass. Qin Xiao was furious by the series of bullets. When the gunshots stopped, he put down his palm and said viciously, just as he opened his eyes, he saw a metal arm in front of him hitting him horizontally. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Meeting Captain America's Love around the corner. Apart from Iron Man, this was definitely the most powerful blow Qin Xiao had ever received. Well, this one was definitely more powerful than before Qin Xiao drank the improved version of the Hulk serum. In the past, even if he dodged the rain of bullets in front, the latter blow would definitely completely stun Qin Xiao. But now, bang! Qin Xiao's palm and the opponent's wrist intersected, making a dull sound of metal collision. Metal arms, messy long hair, and the mouth and nose were covered tightly with black metal. It was Captain America's good friend, Hydra's killing machine, the Winter Soldier, Bucky. He was easily blocked by his full-strength horizontal slash after twisting his waist and turning around. There was no trace of surprise on Bucky's face. Even though he had just seen Qin Xiao's body blocking the Gatling bullet at close range, this brainwashed killing machine didn't have a ripple in his heart. In his mind, there was only how to complete the task. Qin Xiao was still thinking about knocking Bucky out and taking him away, or something like that. The metal arm holding Bucky's wrist moved slightly. His palm loosened and a slight mechanical sound was heard. Qin Xiao then noticed that Bucky was holding a grenade-shaped object in his hand. Before Qin Xiao could react, the grenade-shaped object burst into a dazzling white light. Flash bang! Qin Xiao was not afraid of grenades. The explosion in his palm was nothing to him now, but no matter how strong his body is now. But the eye's tolerance to brightness is no different from that of ordinary people. A flashbang was directly illuminated at close range. Qin Xiao felt as if a small sun flashed in front of his eyes. His eyes stung and he cried out in pain. His hands couldn't help but loosen and covered his eyes with tears. "Qin, what happened?" Hearing Qin Xiao's cry of pain, Tony and Black Widow's voices rang out almost at the same time. "Flash bomb. Damn, my eyes seem to be blind. Come in and chase him. Be careful. There is a guy with a metal arm. His strength and speed are beyond the limit of ordinary people." "Is it him?" Black Widow, who was about to rush over to support, was stunned. Thinking of the killing machine that gave her scars, Black Widow was stunned for a moment, but Tony controlled the armor and went directly into the passage. Not long after, he came to Qin Xiao's side. "How is it? Are you okay?" Fearing that Qin Xiao would attack without seeing, Tony spoke before he stretched out his hand to protect Qin Xiao. "I'm fine, but there is a white mist in front of my eyes, and I can't see anything." Qin Xiao told the truth. "It doesn't matter, your metabolism is much faster than that of ordinary people, and you should recover quickly. I believe you will be able to see in a while." Flash bombs are extremely harmful to the eyes. Ordinary people may feel uncomfortable for several days, but Qin Xiao's body is much better than ordinary people. "It's okay as long as you're not blind." After I was shaken just now, I heard two footsteps, one in front and one behind. I believe that the metal arm ran away separately from the others. I'll look inside the house, and you guys are outside. As soon as Qin Xiao finished speaking, Hawkeye's voice came over. Tony didn't waste any words. He just whooshed and flew forward in the passage at full speed. Less than 10 seconds after flying out, an explosion suddenly sounded, and the metal passage was buzzing. Judging from the sound, it should be the direction Tony was tracking. Just as he was about to ask what happened, footsteps were heard around him. A fragrant breeze blew over, and then his arm tightened, and a soft and familiar touch came. It was the Black Widow who entered the secret passage and held Qin Xiao. Only then did Tony's voice come from the headset. "This Mexican drug lord exploded in front of me. There were fragments of a timer at the scene. He must have installed a time bomb. He must have been killed to silence him. It seems that things are more complicated than we thought." "Clint, what's going on over there? Did you see the metal arm?" Tony's analysis was correct. If he committed suicide, there was no need to use a time bomb. We were fooled. Guys, there are several secret passages here. This is the real escape route. I can't be sure which passage the person escaped from. There is no trace left. Forget it. Don't chase him, Clint. That should be the legendary Winter Soldier. I have fought with him before. It is difficult for us to deal with him, Black Widow said to the headset. At this point, there is no choice but to do so. Although the drug lord is dead and this den has been uprooted, overall, everyone's first action can be regarded as a failure. "Okay, it's okay now. Are you okay? Your eyes still hurt?" Black Widow finally had time to comfort Qin Xiao. Feeling the concern in the Black Widow's words, smelling the faint scent of perfume, and holding his arm against the Black Widow's full chest. Compared to when he could see with his eyes, it gave people more room for imagination. "Hey, are you okay?" Seeing that Qin Xiao didn't speak, the Black Widow shook Qin Xiao's arm again. Qin Xiao came back to his senses, with a face full of grievance. "I'm not good. My eyes are blind. My head is dizzy. I can't stand up anymore. Ouch." With an exaggerated ouch, Qin Xiao plunged directly into the Black Widow's chest. His head rubbed hard between the two soft balls for several times. Only then did he relax and fainted directly in the Black Widow's arms. Bang! The Black Widow was not so easy to fool, seeing that Qin Xiao was not only fine, but also played rogue. She pushed Qin Xiao directly against the wall and let him fall directly to the ground. So inhumane. Qin Xiao pouted, stood up, patted his butt, and started yelling into the headset. "Damn it, Tony, where are you? Come and take me out. I have saved you many times. It's time for you to repay me." The rest of the things will naturally be handled by others. But the appearance of the Winter Soldier casts a layer of conspiracy on the whole thing. Black Widow and others speculated that Sylvester should be a tool for the organization behind the Winter Soldier to make money. Only Qin Xiao knew that this drug lord should be one of the financial supply chains of Hydra. But Bucky's appearance here at this time, whether it was a coincidence or a deliberate attempt to prevent Sylvester from falling into their hands, only God knows. The action was not without gain. Although Sylvester was dead, Tony still found a login record of a bank in Zurich in his personal computer. The computer was not specially processed, so Tony easily searched out the account and password using the traces of use. There are $500 million in this account. Although this amount of money is just a drop in the bucket compared to Celeste's rank, it is enough for them to spend for a long time. New book, new author. Please give 5-star praise and urge for updates. If you swipe to get a free gift for watching videos, you will get the love of a wild Ultraman. The sweet kind. Chapter 56, Braised eggs give you a headache. The basement of a farm outside Washington is a secret base of Hydra. In the passage leading to the outside world from the basement, a burst of hurried footsteps sounded. A group of men in suits and serious faces hurried in. The leader was the chairman of the World Security Council and former director of SHIELD, Alexander Pierce. A dozen expressionless men stood around the basement. In the middle was an ordinary wooden chair, and sitting on it was Bucky, who had fought with Qin Xiao not long ago. "Come on, soldier, tell me about your mission this time and what opponents you met." Alexander Pierce found a table and leaned against it casually and said, "Yes, sir." Bucky said expressionlessly, "I was ordered to go to Sylvester to collect the payment for the last quarter, but Sylvester's manor was attacked by a flying tin man and an oriental man who was extremely powerful and invulnerable. It was Tony Stark and the Chinese man named Qin Xiao, the two guys who were on the news some time ago." A bald man explained in a low voice in Alexander Pierce's ear. Alexander Pierce waved his hand to indicate that he knew, and then motioned for Bucky to continue. "I took Sylvester to escape from the secret passage, but the Oriental man chased us. I was no match for him, so I had to sneak attack him with a flash bomb, and then I installed a small time bomb on Sylvester's clothes to attract the enemy's attention, and I left from another secret passage." Bucky answered word by word, very mechanically. "Well done, soldier." Alexander Pierce praised Bucky indifferently, then turned back to the bald man and said, "Last night, S.H.I.E.L.D's secret forces in Mexico surrounded Sylvester's manor. When they arrived there, the drugs and weapons in the manor were blown up to the sky. This group of people went to clean up the battlefield, but the strange thing is that there is no record of this action inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury would never have thought that many of his so-called mysterious secret forces are our people. Yesterday, one of Sylvester's accounts in Switzerland transferred $500 million. Haha. Tony Stark, and that mysterious Chinese boy. It seems that Nick Fury's so-called super-powered people plan has been launched." The bald man raised the glasses frame on his nose and asked, "Do you need us to do anything?" Barnes is not his opponent, and that mysterious Oriental boy looks difficult to deal with. "No need." Alexander Pierce smiled confidently. Nick Fury wanted to form a secret team, but he exposed the team for a pitiful amount of funds. He was just being clever. "A team that has been exposed poses no threat to us. The most important thing now is the Insight Project. Urge Dr. Zola to improve the Zola algorithm." The bald man nodded quickly. Alexander Pierce patted him on the shoulder again and said, "In addition, if we support another drug dealer in Mexico, our base in Eastern Europe will rely on these drug lords to survive." As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury naturally knew about the Winter Soldier. In fact, This organization that can cultivate a super-killing machine like the Winter Soldier has always been a nightmare in his heart. Especially this Winter Soldier is like a ghost. He has carried out many assassinations and kidnappings in the past 50 years, but he can't be tracked down. This makes Nick Fury feel very uneasy. He would never have thought that this organization is the former mortal enemy of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, and it is parasitic in the body of S.H.I.E.L.D., and even around him. The Avengers Project, which he was proud of, was completely exposed to the other party. For people like Nick Fury, situations that are out of control will give him more room for imagination. For example, what conspiracy does the other party have to harm the world? How many super soldiers like the Winter Soldier do they have in their hands? Killing machines. Apart from anything else, he knows that there are more than a dozen world-class scientists taken away by the Winter Soldier over the years. These people are geniuses who stand at the top of the world in various fields. If they are used to make some weapons that harm the world, then, unfortunately, the appearance of the Winter Soldier this time is still short-lived. He has been investigating the line of Sylvester for several months but has not found out anything. Nick Fury became more and more irritated as he thought about it, and his right hand began to tap lightly on the desk unconsciously. Buzz tilde the phone vibrated on the desktop. The caller ID was Coulson. It's better not to be bad news. Coulson was recently ordered to help establish the Avengers Project. In addition to Hawkeye and Black Widow, Dr. Banner is okay. This guy is a good guy when he doesn't transform. But Tony Stark and Qin Xiao really gave him a headache. Going to his house for a meal could make Banner lose control of his transformation, and he almost smashed the Los Angeles branch into ruins. So Nick Fury now had a headache when he saw Coulson calling. Boss, you know, before we went to Mexico last time, we targeted 3 drug dealers, right? Coulson started beating around the bush, which made Nick Fury's eyes jump unconsciously, and he always felt a bad premonition. Just say it directly, for God's sake, Agent Coulson. Why do I feel that you are talking more and more like Qin Xiao and Stark now? Nick Fury roared in a low voice. Okay, boss, I sorted out the documents this morning and took out the information of the other 2 drug dealers, but now I can't find this document, and the worst thing is, I can't contact Qin Xiao. Shit. The pen holder on Nick Fury's desk was smashed to pieces. Coulson only felt a loud noise in the receiver, followed by a heavy gasp. The honest man knew that his boss was on the verge of going crazy, so he held his breath and dared not speak. Nearly half a minute passed. Nick Fury's weak voice came from the phone. How long have you been aware of the missing file? I put it on the table at noon, and then I went out. I just found out that the file was missing. Coulson hesitated. Nick Fury glanced outside. The weather was good and there was a bright moon in the sky. Sighing helplessly, Nick Fury rubbed his head, which was a little neuralgic. He spoke into the phone. Find someone from the D. They must have undercover agents around the 2 drug lords. Ask for information. If that guy has exposed his identity, wipe out the traces. Chapter 57, Explosion Without Looking Back. How could a drug lord not have someone from the D around him? The only difference is whether they are close confidants or not. Soon, Coulson received a video on his phone. The angle of the video was from the window of a building, and below was a group of fully armed soldiers who were running away with their heads in their hands, on an off-road vehicle that was shot into a sieve. A man wearing a classic robber's hat, with his eyes and nose and mouth exposed. He was holding a 6-barreled Gatling gun and shooting wildly at the surroundings. After a chain of bullets was used up, the man threw away the Gatling gun and took out the rifle on his back. He loaded the gun and shouted at the people around him, "You bunch of drug dealers, bastards, come and meet my bullets of justice. I will destroy you in the name of the moon." Da-da-da-da-da. Coulson swore that this was the first time he felt ashamed because of having such a colleague. If you want to shoot, just shoot directly. Why are you saying da-da-da in your mouth? What the hell is destroying you in the name of the moon? Although the man in the video had his face covered tightly, Coulson recognized Qin Xiao at a glance. Not to mention the sound of his voice, the bastard was wearing the same clothes as when they met at noon. In the legal sense, only those who are caught by the police, tried in court, and confirmed to be guilty are called criminals. This is true for murder, theft, or drug trafficking. Therefore, These drug lords are legal citizens of Mexico in the legal sense before going to court. Some even have good behavior and clean records. They have created many jobs for the local area and developed many charities. The last time Qin Xiao and others attacked the estate of Silcios, the Mexican government was already very dissatisfied. Because of Nick Fury's secret operation, the matter was calmed down. But this time, Qin Xiao sneaked into Mexico alone and just overturned the nest of a drug lord. He swaggered into another one. This is simply a slap in the face of the Mexican government. What's more, in front of the drug lord, he threatened him to transfer a large amount of assets directly to his account. There are many dividends for the top government officials here. So the regular army of the government quickly began to move out and set up a dragnet outside the city. Reynosa is a border city in northeastern Mexico. It is only 100 kilometers away from California. It is not only an important border trade place, but also an important city for Mexican drug lords to transport drugs to North America. At least 50% of the drugs in the North American drug market flow out from here every year. Carlos, the largest local drug lord, has more prestige and power in this chaotic border city than the mayor. Of course, all of this is inseparable from the guns and dollars in his hands. It's just that Carlos now has all the armed forces in his hands. The huge numbers with strings of zeros in the bank account have also been transferred to other people's accounts. In the luxurious manor, which is almost half in ruins, Qin Xiao, who was wearing a mask, was holding a cigar that he had taken from Carlos. He walked into a warehouse full of arms. There were 2 armed men in the warehouse. When they saw Qin Xiao, they subconsciously stood at attention with their legs together. When Qin Xiao attacked before, this group of armed men had frightened Qin Xiao, a human tank. They were invulnerable to swords and guns and had infinite strength. One punch from them was as powerful as a rocket launcher. How could they fight? Anyone who had the courage to fight would have died. Otherwise they would not have hidden in the armory. Seeing Qin Xiao walk in directly, they dared not move at all, let alone fight. If he didn't fight, Qin Xiao was not a murderer, so he would not be idle and punch him in the head. Looking at the ammunition in the room, he randomly found a grenade and pulled out the safety with a click. Why don't you two leave? Are you waiting to be blown up together? As soon as Qin Xiao opened his mouth, the two ran out. Look how scared you are. I haven't let go of my hand yet. Qin Xiao got a huge sum of money from the 2 drug lords, and he was in a good mood at the moment. He laughed at the 2 buddies who had just fled. Qin Xiao tidied his clothes with one hand, and went out to calmly light the cigar that he had been holding in his mouth for a long time. Then he let go of the grenade and threw it directly into the armory. I wanted to do that a long time ago. I deliberately left the room where the munitions were stored at the back. The explosions at the back were so intense, and I walked in front without any disturbance. This is the demeanor that a movie protagonist should have, okay? Qin Xiao muttered to himself as he walked calmly. He remembered that when he watched the Iron Man movie, even Tony, when testing missiles in Afghanistan, opened his hands and turned his back to the explosion in the distance to show off. Boom. An explosion sounded, followed by a series of explosions. Qin Xiao slightly adjusted his walking posture to make himself look as upright as possible, and the various BGMs of the protagonists in countless classic movies sounded in his mind. He walked towards the gate of the manor with a step that did not recognize his relatives. A true warrior never looks back at the explosion behind him. The explosion of the grenade triggered a series of chain explosions. The drug dealer's arsenal was full of guns and explosives. The total weight was about 100 kilograms. Of course, 100 kilograms of TNT is just invisible dust in the nuclear bomb level. But in terms of the explosive power, it is more than enough to overturn a 3- or 4-story building. The powerful impact first tore apart a box next to him that contained several handheld rocket launchers. Several single-soldier rocket launchers were like iron rods, driven by the shockwave and whizzing in all directions. The speed was comparable to that of a bullet. Unfortunately, one of them flew towards Qin Xiao. In fact, the more this person controls himself from doing something, the more he wants to do something. For example, when you are playing with your phone, a friend of the opposite sex tells you not to look back and that he will change his clothes. Even if you don't have the intention of peeping, you will always want to look up after a while. Most people have this mentality. Qin Xiao was the same. He thought about not looking back, but when he heard the explosions getting louder and louder behind him, he wondered whether he should look back. Just take a look. No one should be looking at me now. Anyway, I have finished pretending. The explosion should be almost over. He couldn't help but secretly looked back. As soon as he turned around, he felt a black screen in front of his eyes. A pitch-black hemp-like thing of unknown substance hit Xoaner in an instant. With a bang, it hit his nose and eyes. Oh my god, it hit my eyeball. Ouch. Chapter 3. It's a bit late. There is another chapter in the evening. Chapter 58. Justice from Heaven. Making money, being a drug dealer, and breaking into 2 dangerous places alone in one day. Qin Xiao felt that he was majestic, cool, rewarding, and awesome today. The last explosion was a perfect ending to his awesome day. But the ending was still a mess, and a round 1 was drawn as a C. Maybe this is what it means to be a C when you try to be cool. Rubbing his swollen eyes, Qin Xiao was wondering if he and his eyes were incompatible, and why his eyes always hurt. Before he reached the gate of the manor, he looked up and saw the Black Widow looking at him with a smile, on a black SUV leaning against the gate. Next to it was the wall that Qin Xiao had smashed directly not long ago. Looking at her smiling face, it was obvious that she must have seen what he had just done. What? Why are you here? Where are they? It's dangerous to be here alone. Qin Xiao was afraid that the Black Widow would mention the embarrassing scene just now, so he began to change the subject. What danger is there? The people here are so scared by you that they almost evolved wings and flew away. What danger is there? Black Widow lifted her hair and said coquettishly, you must have missed me, otherwise why would you come all the way to find me? Qin Xiao said with a smile, hugging Black Widow's shoulders. I'm here to take you home. You're in big trouble. Get in the car first. Black Widow squeezed Qin Xiao's mouth with her hands, and then kissed him lightly. This is a reward for what you did just now. Compared with the superhero who walks without looking back, I still like being hit by a rocket launcher. It's very real and cute. After saying that, she got into the driver's seat first. I knew you saw it just now. And why did you kiss me so hard? I have to kiss back, otherwise I will suffer. Qin Xiao got into the car with a shout. As soon as he got in the car, he directly pulled off the bandit hat he had been wearing for a day. You almost suffocated me. I finally know why more and more robbers are wearing stockings now. Don't complain about your hat. You killed 2 drug lords in a row and took away the money in their bank accounts. Now the Mexican government has sent out regular troops, and the city is almost surrounded. What's the big deal? I just killed 2 drug dealers. Qin Xiao curled his lips. He has been a little overconfident recently and doesn't take the government troops seriously. Black Widow glanced at Qin Xiao while driving. 3 drug lords. 3. Do you know how much money they pay to those government officials every year? Do you know how many billions of dollars it will cost to support a new drug gang after 3 drug gang bosses are killed? This doesn't even include the money you transferred from their accounts. A small-yield nuclear warhead sells for less than 100 million on the black market. Qin Xiao was too lazy to calculate the previous account, but he heard the nuclear warhead clearly. No way. They deployed nuclear warheads just for me? That's a bit exaggerated. Don't think that the Mexican government doesn't have anyone around the drug lord. Your fighting power is clearly in front of them. If they are really angry, you might get angry. Okay, I'll try to be more careful in the future. Anyway, I've made enough money from this ticket. Qin Xiao adjusted the seat and lay down comfortably. Black Widow came to pick him up, so there must be no problem. Why worry about it? S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed omnipresent. Black Widow took Qin Xiao to turn left and right. When they arrived in front of a checkpoint, they directly showed a pass stamped by an unknown department and took Qin Xiao away. Although Black Widow was there to pick them up, the two still went directly from the northeast of Mexico to the west and entered the country at the border between Arizona and Mexico. Then they turned to a small town in New Mexico. After driving all night, the two did not rush back directly. Instead, they turned to a restaurant in the town. Unexpectedly, Nick Fury and Coulson were waiting here early. There was a cup of coffee in front of Coulson, and there was an extra breakfast in front of Nick Fury, but it looked like they hadn't touched a single bite. The two of them looked livid, clearly wanting to give Qin Xiao a head start. Qin Xiao pulled out a chair and sat opposite him, and moved the breakfast that Nick Fury hadn't touched yet. I've been sitting in the car all night, and my butt is almost broken. It's rare that you are so considerate to prepare breakfast for me. Qin Xiao grinned and immediately started eating breakfast. If it weren't for the color of his skin, I guess everyone could see that Nick Fury's face had become darker. Is this breakfast ordered for you? If I had known that you were so unscrupulous and didn't even look at other people's faces. I've already started eating. Why didn't I eat first? Why? Nick Fury turned around and gave Coulson a look. The honest man Coulson was confused. He ate your breakfast. Why were you looking at me? Hey, boss, what's the matter with you? After all, he was the boss. Coulson asked with a stiff face. Go buy me another breakfast. Thank you. Nick Fury gritted his teeth and said, give me another cup of coffee. And Natasha's. Thank you. Qin Xiao quickly stretched out his hand and said, you have a good appetite? Do you know how much trouble you have caused? Nick Fury failed to show off his power, and he was too lazy to keep a tense face. He sighed and said helplessly, isn't this for the funds of our department? Qin Xiao handed over a note with 2 long groups of numbers on it, bank account number and password. There are $10 billion in it. Take it out as funds, but I have to say in advance that this is limited to people in our group. Don't post it anywhere else. I took finance as an elective in college. I will keep an eye on it. Qin Xiao stuffed his mouth with egg spreads, mumbling. Nick Fury would never believe that this $10 billion was all the money Qin Xiao got from the robbery this time. It's just that it's a bit difficult to get this kid to spit it out. Moreover, this is not the theme of his visit this time. But Qin Xiao did not give Nick Fury a chance to complain. He spoke directly. I understand what you mean. Do your own thing and obey the arrangement. I understand. It's just that the last time the $500 million did not meet psychological expectations. There will not be a next time. I promise. Besides, I am wearing a mask, so no one will recognize me. After the retort, Nick Fury's words rotted in his stomach. After breakfast, Nick Fury, a busy man, hurried back to the meeting. The 3 people sent Nick Fury to the desert outside the town, where a Quinjet fighter was parked. Keep an eye on this guy, Nick Fury emphasized to Coulson and Black Widow. He turned to Qin Xiao and wanted to tell him something again. Qin Xiao directly stretched out 2 fingers to the sky and swore, don't worry, I will never cause trouble again. I swear, if I act privately again. There is an idiom in China called heaven strikes with thunder, which means that God will send down thunder to kill me. Qin Xiao's voice had just fallen, and Nick Fury hadn't said anything yet. The sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and the sound of thunder roused, and it was just above everyone's head. The dark clouds rolled into a whirlwind in the sky like a tornado. This thunder and the dark clouds were too evil, and the group of people turned their eyes to Qin Xiao. Why are you looking at me like that? I swear, I was really sincere just now, and this has nothing to do with me. Qin Xiao quickly waved his hand to deny it. Unfortunately, God didn't seem to give him this face. As soon as he finished speaking, a lightning bolt more than 1 meter thick suddenly struck Qin Xiao. Everyone had walked out of the hail of bullets. When they saw this posture, there was no need to say anything. They ran a few steps around and fell to the ground at the farthest distance. Boom! The lightning was like a bomb, and it directly created a huge hole in the ground. A group of people and the plane fell into the hole. Qin Xiao landed in the middle of the hole. Next to him was a hammer surrounded by lightning. 4 chapters are completed. I'm going to take a shower, and I beg for 5-star praise and urge you to add it to the bookshelf. Thank you. Chapter 59. Coulson bet on his hair. Even though Qin Xiao was now known to be tough, he was still knocked unconscious by the hammer. He was dizzy for a long time before he came to his senses. The lightning didn't strike him, but the hammer hit his head firmly, making a bounce before falling to the ground. He didn't provoke anyone. He just swore with his fingers. As for the lightning and the hammer, if Qin Xiao didn't know the origin of the hammer, he would definitely jump up and curse at the sky 3 times. But now, he doesn't seem to have the qualifications to provoke Asgard, especially Asgard where Odin is still there. He opened his mouth and spit out the sand in his mouth, and looked around to see that everyone was basically fine. Qin Xiao squatted on the ground and silently drew a big circle next to the hammer with his finger. Then he wrote 2 lines of small Chinese characters in it. Throwing hammers around will kill the whole family. My wife has her period every day. Coulson, Check if there were any planes passing in the sky just now. Agent Romanov, contact Hill at headquarters. We need a team of professional scientists. Checking for planes was just a habitual argument. The hammer had been surrounded by lightning just now, and it slowly disappeared now. The one-eyed dragon could tell at a glance that this was not an ordinary hammer. Qin Xiao, what are you doing? Bring the hammer over here. Nick Fury's direction just now made him fall directly on the edge of the pit. At this time, he was giving orders to the three people from a high position. Qin Xiao knew the details of the hammer, but he still cooperated and tried it. He held the hammer handle with both hands, not daring to underestimate it, and suddenly exerted force with both arms. It didn't move at all. Hey, boss, it seems you have to find a guy with more strength. 5 minutes later, there was an airplane landing gear and nearby iron and steel plates on the edge of the pit, as well as a broken Quinjet fighter. The hammer just lay quietly on the sand, and the weight didn't even seem to sink the sand. But even the Quinjet couldn't pull up the hammer. I hate things and events that are beyond my control. Nick Fury was unhappy. Before the SHIELD people came, he could only arrange for the local police to come and block the area. Then let Coulson take charge of everything here first. And he had to rush back to the meeting immediately. Qin Xiao forced Black Widow to stay here. Thor's hammer has appeared. So how far can Thor be? According to the usual nature of the system, as long as a superhero appears, there should be a task, or an opportunity to gain points. Coulson, I bet you $50 on the origin of this hammer. After sending Nick Fury away and letting Black Widow, who had been driving all night, find a place to rest, Qin Xiao and Coulson sat on the edge of the pit and talked nonsense while watching the police pull up the cordon. You know all this. Whether it was the Tang's sword or Qin Xiao's own strength, everyone knew that Qin Xiao had his own little secret. A hammer that no one could lift fell from the sky for no reason, and it happened to hit Qin Xiao on the head. Qin Xiao came to bed with him again, and Coulson's mind was full of ideas, analyzing whether this hammer was really related to Qin Xiao. I can tell fortunes. Have you forgotten who helped you find the plane in Tony's mansion in Marbury? Qin Xiao reminded him with a smile. Don't forget that you have a unique talent. Coulson rolled his eyes. You dared to mention the time you found the plane. Everyone knows that you two stole the plane and went to the Middle East to fight. You can lie to the video with your eyes open, and call yourself an ugly bitch, smearing shit on your face and so on. I was almost pissed to death by Qin Xiao and Tony. These two shameless guys. No more bets. If you want to say it, just say it. If you don't want to say it, just wait here with me. Coulson was reminded of not-so-good memories, and said with a proud face. Qin Xiao saw what Coulson was thinking at a glance. He moved to his side, put his arm around his shoulders and said, You have to look forward, man. Forget about the unhappy things in the past. At most, I will tell you what this hammer is about. Go ahead. Coulson was bored anyway. A long, long time ago, in the distant world of gods, Odin, the father of the gods, gave birth to a silly son. Qin Xiao used a voice like telling a fairy tale to coax a child to sleep. He told Coulson in detail about the birth of Thor, the god of thunder, and the origin of Thor's hammer. He also pretended to count with his fingers and calculated that Thor was deprived of his divine power and exiled to Earth. Ha ha ha. You said this is Thor's hammer, and even the handle of the hammer is made of branches of the world tree? Qin, you remind me of those medieval charlatans who made a living by divination and talked nonsense. Coulson laughed. If you are telling me jokes just to kill time with me, thank you, my friend, but if you are serious, I will bet you my hair. What a joke. Coulson has been a member of SHIELD for more than 10 years. He has seen everything. In 1995, he even followed Nick Fury to see Captain Marvel and the Skrulls. How could he believe that there are gods in this world? What about the god of thunder, the father of the gods, and even the rainbow bridge that can teleport throughout the universe? Do you really think that agents don't read myths and don't know that this is a Nordic myth? Are you serious? Qin Xiao glanced at Coulson's hairline with some reluctance. Do you want to consider changing the bet? If you don't believe me, you will suffer. Really, I never tell lies. When I tell lies, my heart beats faster and I have difficulty breathing. Qin Xiao's words were basically no different from farting to Coulson. No, I won't believe your myth even if you kill me. I'll bet my hair. If I lose, I'll buy and distribute the doses. If you lose, Qin, you'll hand over all the money you got from this trip to Mexico as our funding. He is worthy of being the next director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Look at his dedication to the public, betting his few hairs for the unit's funding. Qin Xiao gave him a thumbs up. Deal. The people from S.H.I.E.L.D. came very quickly, and a large group of people came that afternoon. Coulson directed everyone to build a shed on the scene, covering the entire pit and the hammer tightly. One by one, instruments were moved out of the car and began to monitor the various energy reactions, materials and other information of the hammer in all directions. Maybe because Qin Xiao and Black Widow were here, Hawkeye was not called over like in the movie. A simple shed was built, barbed wire was pulled on the periphery, and various ranges of monitoring and other defensive measures were taken. Coulson built a temporary office for himself, and he, Qin Xiao, and the rested Black Widow watched the surveillance in the temporary office. Qin, it seems that the calculation is wrong. The so-called Thor who is deprived of his power does not seem to appear, Coulson said with a smile. It is definitely worth being happy to be able to win money from Qin Xiao. As soon as the voice fell, the alarm sounded and someone broke in. Coulson hurriedly looked at the monitor. He saw a man with long blonde hair and a strong body outside the built shed. He was using brutal movements to overturn several guards in succession and ran straight in the direction of the hammer. It is not clearly stated in the movie, but the hammer should have landed at night, and Thor landed at about the same time and hit Jane Foster's car. Qin Xiao was hit by the hammer in the morning, so just treat it as the hammer being late for one night. Don't mind. Chapter 60. Is this hammer your boyfriend? For some reason, when Coulson saw a handsome young man who looked as strong as a bull through the monitor, he felt that his hair was a little dangerous. Everyone retreat. Don't worry about this person. Retreat back to your post. Let him in. In order to verify his thoughts, Coulson asked all the guards to make way. Let's go and take a look. Qin Xiao pulled Coulson and Black Widow straight to the hammer. When the three arrived at the hammer, Thor had just walked to this place. He didn't realize that there were three people behind him. Instead, he looked at the hammer with a fascination and muttered to himself, I finally found you. Sorry, sir, it seems that this place is off limits, but from the looks of you, you seem to have lost your most beloved person. Is this your boyfriend? This shape doesn't seem to be very convenient to use. Qin Xiao interrupted Thor's mumbling and pointed at the hammer and said with a smile. Thor tilted his head and thought for more than 10 seconds before reacting to Qin Xiao's meaning. How dare you blaspheme the gods? I am the god of thunder in Asgard, the son of Odin, the father of the gods. I am. Qin Xiao interrupted the angry Thor again. Okay, you are talking so much nonsense just to find your partner. It is there, go get it back. Coulson and Black Widow were still quite shocked, because what this man said coincided with what Qin Xiao said. They are both top agents, and they are also the best at grasping people's psychology. They can probably see that the crazy man in front of them is telling the truth, or he is a lunatic. But how can a lunatic say the same thing as Qin Xiao? It's a coincidence. Before coming to Earth, Thor was definitely a barbarian who spoke without thinking. Faced with Qin Xiao's words of letting you do whatever you want, instead of taking the hammer directly at the first time, he first said some polite words to Qin Xiao viciously. Very good, you blasphemer. When I get my hammer back, I will teach you a lesson and let you learn what it means to respect the gods. Qin Xiao, Black Widow, Coulson and the other three rolled their eyes almost at the same time. Black Widow and Coulson even began to doubt their intuition. The man in front of them must be a lunatic. He looked like he had a problem with his brain. Thor didn't care what the people in front of him thought of him. He wanted to get his hammer back and prove to Odin that his idea was correct. He walked to the side of the hammer in 2 or 3 steps, and Thor confidently reached out and grasped the hammer. With a slight force, the hammer of Thor, which was usually as light as a feather in his hand, did not move at all. This time he used both hands. Not only did he use all his strength, but he also held it back until his face turned red. But the hammer still did not move at all. Father? Why? Whether he was scolded by Odin or exiled to the earth, Thor was like a child who had never been beaten, and he never really took his parents' threats to heart. In his opinion, as long as he got the hammer back, he could return to Asgard and prove to Odin that he was right. But the hammer that didn't move at all completely took away his luck and self-confidence, and suddenly a sad feeling of being abandoned surged in his heart. It seems that your boyfriend is angry with you. Is it because you met a new boyfriend outside? Let me guess. Is it an axe or a mace? Qin Xiao said with a grin. I don't know why. Seeing Thor with a serious and even a little bit of a middle school student, Qin Xiao always wants to tease him. Although this guy is more than 1,000 years old, he looks like a teenager who has lost his favorite toy. You bastard born of a bitch. Qin Xiao's words made Thor turn all his sadness and unwillingness into anger. He roared and rushed towards Qin Xiao angrily. Poor child, you need to get a good sleep. Thor, who has lost the power of Thor, can fight ordinary people, but he is no match for Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao dodged slightly to the side, and cut Thor's neck with a knife. The latter's body shook and fell to the ground. Just find a place to put this poor guy. He is no longer a threat. Someone should come to find him tomorrow. Someone is coming to find him? Is it some other god? Although Thor failed to pick up the hammer, Coulson always felt that Qin Xiao was right. As an astrophysicist, you'd better arrange a few people to follow them. Their research will give you unexpected surprises, Qin Xiao said and turned to go out. Natasha, what do you think about Qin Xiao's words? After Qin Xiao left, Coulson asked Black Widow's opinion with some doubts. It sounds hard to believe. No matter what god Asgard is, or someone comes to find him tomorrow, but this hammer has already explained everything. Although I don't know why Qin knows all this, although he sometimes seems very unserious, he is trustworthy, isn't he? Qin Xiao turned around and asked the system directly in his mind. System, Thor's mission. I should have completed it. Why is there no reward points? I swear this guy will never forget me for the rest of his life. Every time a superhero appears, the system will always give Qin Xiao a mission to get to know them and leave a deep impression on them. And this time is no exception. Thor doesn't know the host's name yet. The mission is not completed. The lifeless voice of the system sounded in his mind. It was a bit embarrassing to forget to tell him my name, but in the situation just now, it seemed very abrupt to introduce myself. There is a new mission. The host can choose to accept or refuse. The voice of the system sounded again. Oh, tell me about it. During Thor's exile on Earth, help him transform his inner self and regain the recognition of Thor's hammer. After completing the mission, the host will gain the friendship of Odin, the father of the gods. This mission is a bit like the encounter with Banner, except that the reward of the Hulk serum is more intuitive. Odin's friendship? Qin Xiao pondered this reward in his mind. System, why does this mission specifically remind me to choose to accept or refuse? Qin Xiao asked the question in his heart. In order to make Thor a qualified king, Odin, the father of the gods, chose to exile him to Earth. The host mainly helped to complete this process, and will inevitably enter the site of Asgard, and Odin will be grateful. For the current host, gaining Odin's gratitude will definitely have the opportunity to gain some unexpected gains, but entering Odin's sight now may not be a good thing. Qin Xiao understood that this was a double-edged sword. After a little hesitation, Qin Xiao directly said to the system, I accept. Chapter 2. Although it's a little late, well, I overslept for my nap. There are still 2 chapters in the evening. Chapter 61, Moon over the Willows. Asgard, a magical place, does not refer to the various magic or gods here. The internal disputes of the entire Odin family almost prevented Asgard from exerting a little bit of the so-called combat power that shocked the universe. The entire Asgard has always been centered around Thor, Loki, and finally Hela. The internal disputes of the king's family eventually destroyed the entire kingdom of Asgard. The younger brother wants to kill the older brother. The younger brother protects the older brother. The older sister wants to kill the father, and the older brother and younger brother join forces to destroy everything. In short, except for the lack of family incest, Asgard is comparable to the messy things of Zeus in the chaotic Greek mythology. A bloody family ethics drama. And Odin took away Thor's power of the god of thunder and exiled him to the earth. In Qin Xiao's view, this is just like a rich father freezing his credit card and throwing him in a small mountain village in order to make his son grow up and understand what real life is. Metamorphosis in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Qin Xiao accepted the task. and the role he had to play was like the director of the program group in Metamorphosis. It's just that Qin Xiao is not so kind-hearted, and Thor is not so selfish and unreasonable. He is just a little stupid, and before he has enough strength to protect himself, he enters Odin's sight. It's like a small business company being targeted by a world-class big company. Either you can thrive with the help of other people's resources, or you will be swallowed by a giant crocodile. Qin Xiao is familiar with all the plots of this world, so after thinking again and again, he chose to accept it. Late at night, Qin Xiao sat alone on the hillside quietly watching the stars. He thought casually whether to follow the plot or think of some good way to effectively calm the silly boy down first. "Hi, I rarely see you so quiet. How are you? Are the stars beautiful today?" Black Widow appeared behind Qin Xiao at some point, holding a bottle of wine and 2 glasses in her hand. "If there is a choice, I will choose to stare at you all the time, not the stars," Qin Xiao said with a smile. "You are very sweet. I will reward you with a glass of wine." Black Widow sat down with a smile, opened the bottle and poured 2 glasses of wine, and handed one to Qin Xiao. "Cheers to the stars in the sky." "Okay, cheers to the stars." The two of them touched each other gently. That guy woke up, didn't run away, didn't shout, just sat there stupidly. Is he really the legendary Thor? Yes, it's the real deal. Qin Xiao glanced at the Black Widow beside him. Today she was still wearing the same black tights that she hadn't changed for thousands of years, but her face was no longer serious and solemn as usual. There was only a rare calmness, and a rare lovable look compared to usual. "Are you going to ask me why I know all this next?" Qin Xiao said with a smile. "Oh, if I ask you, will you tell the truth?" Black Widow took the wine glass again and took a sip. "That depends on what identity you are asking. Is it the famous Black Widow in the spy world, or my friend Natasha?" Qin Xiao asked back without comment. "Since I can remember, I have been locked up in a red house with a group of little girls. I can only survive by accepting shame training and killing each other." Black Widow did not answer Qin Xiao's question directly, but instead talked about her past. "So from a very young age, I didn't trust the people around me. Slowly, I could see that those people had bad intentions towards me. Those people looked at me with a smile, but they had daggers hidden behind them. From the beginning when I met you, you started to be dishonest, and basically rarely told the truth, but I can see from your eyes that you have no ill will towards me. So how did you know? I don't care at all. I know that whether as a partner or a friend, I can trust you. My previous experience is very embarrassing to look back on, and I don't even want to mention it myself, so I won't force you to tell your own secrets. In fact, I just want to look at the stars with you and chat casually today." Black Widow leaned her head on Qin Xiao's shoulder as she spoke. In the first half of her life, she only trained to kill, target people and enemies. It was not until she met Hawkeye and joined SHIELD that she felt that she had a partner she could trust. But there has never been a person like Qin Xiao, who was a target at first, then a friend, a partner, but more of a man. He can let herself put aside the task, or everything else, and face him from a woman's perspective very intuitively. This feeling is very common for ordinary people, but it is very special for Black Widow, and she cherishes this feeling very much. "You look quite thin, but I didn't expect that your shoulders are not bad. Do you like it? I can let you lean on me for the rest of your life, but only on this side. You know, I am such a charming man. There will always be other people who fall in love with me, and I am a person who can't bear to reject beautiful women, so I always have to leave some hope for others, right?" Black Widow's answer made Qin Xiao extremely satisfied, and he started to talk nonsense dishonestly again. There is nothing in the world that he can't talk about. Black Widow just leaned against him and listened quietly, listening to his serious nonsense, but the faint smile at the corner of her mouth showed that she liked this feeling very much. "The moon is on the willow branches, women, cowhide, strong liquor, dot." The two sat quietly for half a night, although there was no physical movement that everyone liked to see, but in the heart, the two of them took a step closer to each other. This feeling is great and pleasant. So the next morning, Qin Xiao got up in high spirits. He waited for Jane Foster's teacher, Dr. Eric Shavig, to come and pick up Thor. In the movie, Thor fell from the sky and hit their car. Everyone thought he was a lunatic, But Jane Foster fell in love with Thor at first sight and chose to believe what he said. If nothing unexpected happens, they should come here today to pick up Thor. I waited from early morning to noon, but I didn't see anyone coming to pick up Thor. Instead, I received a video call from Tony. Qin, I heard that you met a strange hammer in Mexico. Is it fun? If it's fun, I'll go and see it. By the way, look at me. What's different? Tony deliberately pulled the camera away to reveal his upper body. Qin Xiao looked for a long time and finally found that the light inside the arc reactor on his chest turned into a blue triangle. There will be another chapter later. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. The Poor Man with a Fortune of $3 billion. As expected, bad guys always live long. Congratulations on being blacklisted by God, Tony. But this is bad news for me. I have been thinking about the car in your garage for a long time. His little butterfly wings can make Tony's palladium poisoning disappear in advance, which looks good. I just don't know if Rhodes can still take a set of armor from Tony and turn it into a war machine because of this change. You are an absolute bastard. It is a wrong decision to share the happy things with you. When will you come back? Are you waiting for the hammer thing to end? After talking nonsense with Tony for a while, Qin Xiao seemed to suddenly think of something. He deliberately walked to a place where there was no one and said to Tony mysteriously, I have something to ask you, Tony. Only you can help me. Your sneaky look reminds me of a thief. Do you have some kind of men's disease? I can't help you with this, man. After all, I am very healthy and strong. You'd better ask Banner about this. He seems to have taken medicine or something. Tony saw Qin Xiao's mysterious look and looked disgusted. Shut up, you damn pervert. I am in good health. My dick is healthy enough to break your armor. Didn't I go to Mexico? You know, I transferred a lot of money from those drug lords. I opened an account in a Swiss bank. This is what I opened at the homes of those drug lords. You know, there are many banks in Zurich. I want to ask which one is the safest. I want to transfer the money again. Qin Xiao looked around and saw that there was no one around, and whispered to the phone, That's it. Tony looked disappointed. He thought Qin Xiao was going to tell some big secret. Watch your attitude, Tony. I'm a billionaire now. $3 billion. $3 billion. God, I don't know what to buy. A mansion? A yacht? Do you have any good suggestions? Tony Stark on the screen said to Qin Xiao with an extremely disdainful and condescending look. I thought you had done something big. $3 billion is worth this. UBS is a group mainly engaged in banking business, which was formed by the merger of Union Bank of Switzerland and Swiss Bank Group. As long as the bank website you log in has these 3 letters, it is reliable. Is there anything else? Although Tony didn't say it, Qin Xiao read the word poor guy from his eyes. Tony, I admit that you are very rich, but $3 billion is not a small number anywhere. I think you should respect me a little. Do you know what the number of $3 billion represents? Qin Xiao solved his economic problems in this world permanently in one breath, with a huge amount of money. He was proud and complacent. How could he endure Tony's contemptuous eyes? I don't know, my friend. $3 billion. The amount of an order from Stark Industries and the Department of Defense, or a little fluctuation in the stock price. I don't know. You know, I don't care much about the amount in the bank. Fuck. Qin Xiao hung up the phone angrily. This is the highest level of Versailles. Billionaires are also divided into levels. Only those with mental problems will ask for money in front of Tony Stark in the future. Excuse me, are you okay? I'm not okay. Are you okay? Someone was talking next to him, and Qin Xiao subconsciously answered unhappily. Turning around, he saw a sloppy old man. Isn't this the genius astrophysicist Eric Shavig? This guy appears very frequently in the entire Avengers series, Thor 1 and 2, Avengers 1 and 2. In Avengers 1, he was controlled by Loki and developed a device, and used the huge energy of Stark Daxia to control the cosmic cube with scientific means to open a stable portal. The Chitauri army entered New York continuously. Qin Xiao's attitude frightened the old man, and he whispered in fear, I have a friend, He has a little brain. You know, he disappeared yesterday. I heard that he came here. I want to ask if he was caught by you. If you are also one of them. Dr. Eric Shavig pointed to a sign on the shed camp behind. National Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau. It's a bit confusing, right? I am. If the friend you're talking about also shouts that he is the god of thunder and the son of Odin, the father of the gods, every day, then he is right. Eric Shavig hurriedly nodded in agreement. He couldn't resist Jane Foster's request, so he came to ask for someone. Otherwise, no one would be willing to deal with the mysterious intelligence department. Well, your friend looks very sick. Don't forget to take him to see a doctor when you go back. That person. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and called a guard over. Go and inform Chief Coulson. Tell him that the friend of that madman yesterday is here to ask for someone. He will understand what I mean. Qin Xiao pulled Eric Shavig aside to wait, and after chatting with him for a few words, he lost interest. These genius scientists are usually very dull, and they take a long time to react to anything you say. Unless you are talking about his profession, it is really rare to find someone as talented as Tony Stark, and then be so interesting. Not long after, Coulson and 2 guards escorted Thor out. Since this kid didn't raise the hammer last night, he has been like a lost soul, not talking, stupid and dumb. Thor, are you okay? Jane asked me to take you home. I don't know if it was because of the familiar voice of Dr. Eric Shavig or because he heard the name Jane. Anyway, Thor raised his head, and there was a hint of color in his eyes. Dr. Xiao, are you here to take me away? Yes, Jane is still waiting for you outside. I'm here to take you back. With Qin Xiao's reminder, Coulson did not ask Dr. Eric Xiao to show any ID, and just let them go. It was a waste of the fake ID they had someone make overnight, but after Dr. Eric Xiao took Thor away, Coulson asked an agent to follow them quietly. 4 chapters are complete, and the next plot will jump back and forth between Thor and Iron Man 2. I'm wondering if I should let Qin Xiao and Tony go to Asgard to make some trouble. Chapter 63, Tricking Thor. Let Coulson send someone to follow, and then take away the research materials of Eric Shavig, Jane Foster and others. This is a little compensation for Qin Xiao's arrival, allowing Eric Shavig to enter the site of SHIELD to study the Cosmic Cube, which smoothly led to the story of Avengers 1. You know, for Qin Xiao, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the system is the key to his own strength growth, and being familiar with most of the plots is his biggest golden finger. When he crossed over, the 3rd phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe came to an end. The 4th phase has not yet started. He only learned from the trailers of some upcoming movies and TV series that the 4th phase may completely open up the parallel multiverse. This also indicates that the combat effectiveness of superheroes or villains will be taken to another level. So Qin Xiao can change some things, but he will not move some things in the main line. If possible, he will maintain it a little so as not to provoke some hidden old monsters that he doesn't know yet, such as the Eternals, who have been saying that they will start filming before crossing the Space-Time Mutation Administration in Loki, etc. Of course, Qin Xiao, who is so old, joins this world, and is still in the superhero core of Tony and Black Widow in the previous stages. It is impossible not to bring changes. We can only try to maintain it, control it within a range that we can still see in the future, and then use the system to grow up as quickly as possible. Of course, some changes and details are still acceptable, such as intervening in the path of Thor's transformation. When Qin Xiao came to the door, Jane Foster was eating with Thor in a restaurant. I don't know how Jane Foster comforted him. Anyway, he was still a dead fish when he left, but now he looks alive again. While eating, he was still flirting with Jane Foster from time to time, which made Qin Xiao angry. I have been in this world for so long, and I slowly started to flirt with Black Widow. You little bastard has only been on Earth for a few days, and there are beautiful women coming to my door to flirt with you. You are also providing food and accommodation. Do fools have foolish luck? Are you angry? This is the treatment of the protagonist. Look at how well they are doing. Even if I have a system, I am not as good as them. But think about the tragic fate of Thor in the later period. His whole family died, Asgard was destroyed, and even his girlfriend Jane kicked him. He turned into a dead fat otaku. The more happiness you enjoy in the early stage, the more suffering you will suffer in the future. Thinking of this, Qin Xiao's mood improved a lot. He adjusted his mood and walked towards the two of them with a smile. Uninvited, he pulled out a chair and sat next to the two of them. Thor jumped up after seeing Qin Xiao. He protected Jane Foster tightly behind him. Pointing at Qin Xiao's nose, he said loudly, "I know you. You insulted me and my hammer. You also knocked me out yesterday. I am not your opponent now. But don't think about hurting my friends." Look, who said Thor was stupid? This guy is definitely as smart as a monkey. It is true that Qin Xiao knocked him out yesterday, but he didn't lock him up or beat him. He let him go today. Obviously, she had no hostility towards him. So why did she put on such a show for Jane Foster to see? Sure enough, after Thor said this, Jane Foster's eyes were full of hearts. In her opinion, the people of the Strategic Security Bureau were the most despicable and shameless government agents. They released Thor and then followed him to take away all their equipment and research materials. They were just robbers. And Thor was captured yesterday, but he was able to stand up in front of her today. Not afraid of these bad guys like robbers. He was simply a boyfriend. So Jane Foster, who was a bit of a heroine, took a big step and protected the stupid big Thor behind her. She looked at Qin Xiao nervously and said, "You bunch of robbers. Your people have taken away all our things. Don't think about taking my friend away from me." Well, not only was she treated as a bad guy just after sitting down, but she was fed a mouthful of dog food before she even opened her mouth. Damn it, it's so annoying. Touching his nose a little embarrassedly, Qin Xiao spoke depressedly. "Don't get excited. I'm not here to take anyone away, nor am I here to steal your things. Look, I'm alone, and there's no one else outside." Jian looked outside for a few times, and sure enough, Qin Xiao was the only one there. His eyes relaxed a little, but he still spoke with full vigilance. "Then why did you come to us? We have nothing to say to you. Don't disturb us while we're eating, or I'll call the police if you don't leave." "Can you sit down first? I just came to talk to him." "Sit down first. Everyone is looking at us. I'll give you 5 minutes, and leave quickly after you finish talking." Jian looked outside for a few more times, and then pulled Thor to sit down carefully. "First of all, let me make it clear that I have no ill will towards you, otherwise I wouldn't have let him leave today. Secondly, I'm not from that security bureau. I'm just a consultant. Understand? So you don't have to be so nervous." Qin Xiao tried his best to eliminate some of the hostility between the two people. "But you insulted my hammer yesterday and knocked me out." Thor was like a child, and couldn't forget Qin Xiao's insult to his hammer. "I knocked you out because you were too excited yesterday, Thor, and I insulted your hammer because you were too nervous about it. You are the god of thunder, not the god of hammer. Are you nothing without your hammer?" Qin Xiao said to Thor in a very familiar way. "Mjolnir is my fighting partner and the source of my strength. You don't understand even if I tell you, you ordinary mortal, the thing that only remembers food but not punishment," started the arrogance of the Asgardians in a few words. "So, this is why your father asked you to come to Earth. You have achieved nothing after losing your hammer, and you don't know how to respect the humans on Earth." Qin Xiao snapped his fingers lazily. "Wait. Do you believe that he is really the god of thunder from Asgard?" Jane interrupted the two people's conversation. Although she said that she believed Thor's statement, she was still half believing and half doubting in her heart. She was a little surprised to hear Qin Xiao say that. Thor's reaction was even more exaggerated. "Do you know why my father exiled me to Earth?" Qin Xiao was happy to see that the fish had taken the bait. "Of course I know. Not only do I know why you are here, I also know how to make you pick up the hammer again and gain the power of Thor." Chapter 64 A Business Card. Qin Xiao's pretense usually ends in failure, but this time, facing the stupid big guy Thor, Qin Xiao easily gained his trust, especially when Qin Xiao said that when Thor was 8 years old, Loki turned into a snake, and then when Thor picked up the snake to play, he suddenly turned back and stabbed him. Except for their mother, Queen Frigga, even Odin didn't know about this. Qin Xiao had pretended to be a fortune teller many times since he entered Marvel Time, and finally he successfully opened a business with Thor. By the way, he also took a small revenge for eating dog food just now. "I also know that Loki found you last night and told you that Odin was dead. He lied to you. Your father was just asleep." He didn't want you to go back. You know, there is only one king. This sentence made Thor very excited. You know, the biggest blow to him was not that he couldn't lift Thor's hammer, it was that Loki secretly came to tell him yesterday that because of his recklessness, their father was killed. I know Heimdall ignores your call now, but as long as you learn how to be an ordinary person and complete your own experience, you will get back the lost power, and your friends, the three warriors, and your fiancée Sif, the goddess of land and harvest, will come to Earth to find you. What, you have a fiancé? Jane really showed a deceived look and asked Thor loudly. Although the two did not establish a relationship, they had been exchanging small sparks in their eyes since they met. An ambiguous atmosphere quietly grew in the tacit understanding between the two, but before it blossomed, Qin Xiao violently tore it open. In fact, Thor had never thought about this problem in his heart. For more than 1,000 years, he had always regarded Sif as a comrade in arms and brother. Before meeting Jane, he only knew that he would marry Sif when he ascended to the position of king, but he never had any idea about this matter. This was picked up by Qin Xiao, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he began to panic for no reason. Jane, listen to me, that was designated by my father when I was born. I have always treated her as my sister and never thought of marrying her. You don't need to explain to me. I am just an ordinary mortal. You are the god of thunder. Your future wife should be a goddess or something. This is in line with your identity, the goddess of land and harvest. Qin Xiao added a sly sentence beside him. Yes, the goddess of land and harvest. This should be your future wife. Also, thank you for your reminder, Jane said, and picked up the water cup in front of her and splashed it directly on Qin Xiao's face. He turned away angrily. Shit, why did you splash water on my face? Qin Xiao felt that he was really more wronged than I'm sorry, Jane definitely didn't mean it, she just, I mean I have to chase her back first, and then I will come back to you. I still have a lot of things that need your advice. Thor stuttered to Qin Xiao, and it can be seen that this guy is really moved by Jane. It's okay, go ahead. Come find me after you've dealt with your own business. You know where I am, right? Qin Xiao wiped his face and helplessly put on a master's demeanor to the thunder god. The big fool gave Qin Xiao an apologetic look again and hurriedly chased in the direction where Jihan left. I'm so unlucky to meet you. Fortunately, one of the system's tasks was completed, and 500 points were credited to the account. There was only 500 points short of opening the second-level mall, which was a little bit of comfort. After the big fool left, Qin Xiao got up and prepared to leave, mumbling. Before he reached the door, the waiter of the restaurant reached out to stop him. Sir, that table hasn't paid yet. Please pay the bill first, and you broke one of our cups, so you need to compensate. Oh, these two damn bastards. Why did I choose this time to find them? I don't know them. I won't pay. I just saw that they looked familiar and came over to say a few words. I didn't order anything. Qin Xiao felt that he was at a loss, and he really didn't want to pay. Sir, if you insist on doing this, we will call the police. Okay, I'll swipe the card. I don't know how Thor will coax his girlfriend back. Anyway, by the afternoon of the next day, Qin Xiao didn't wait for the big guy to come to him. Instead, he received an invitation letter from Tony. Tony was still very ceremonial, and the invitation letter was sent through the Stark Group. Invited Qin Xiao to participate in the Stark Industrial Expo held in New York 3 days later. In this world, Stark Industries is definitely the leader of technology companies, and the Stark Expo is also one of the largest technology exhibitions in the world. The huge exhibition area brings together the latest products of major famous technology companies around the world, and it is held for a year. Stark Industries chose to hold the expo at this time to show the world the various inventions of Stark Industries during this period and the application methods of new energy. Even if they don't make weapons, they have strong strength to make great progress in other fields. The expo lasts for 1 year, so this opening ceremony is a big deal for Stark Industries. In fact, Tony sent invitations to everyone in the Avengers team. However, the other few were real agents and had no time to attend the opening ceremony. Dr. Banner was still a figurehead in the military, so it was not convenient for him to show up casually for the time being. Qin Xiao was not particularly interested in the opening ceremony of the expo, but when he thought of the group of long-legged and well-built girls who danced with Tony at the opening ceremony and the movie, Qin Xiao felt a little itchy. However, his relationship with Black Widow has been going well recently, so it would be nice to stay here in case there is a chance to knock her out. When Qin Xiao was hesitating, Coulson came in with a serious old face. "What happened?" Qin Xiao said when he saw that he looked constipated. "A business card with your name written in Chinese." Coulson held a business card in his hand. Qin Xiao took it and looked at it. It was an ordinary business card with two big characters Qin Xiao written in Chinese. Turning it over, it was an address. 177A Bleecker Street. Qin Xiao felt that this address was a little familiar, so he asked Coulson, "Do you know where this is? Maybe you should take a look at this first." Coulson turned on his phone and played a video. This is the monitoring screen of Thor's hammer. There was nothing in the field except the hammer. Suddenly, a golden energy ring appeared in the void above the hammer, spinning non-stop. As the energy ring stopped spinning, a portal with the energy ring as the frame appeared. A business card floated down from inside. Chapter 65 Ancient One Supreme. S.H.I.E.L.D. must have sent people to check out this strange situation. However, their results showed that Bleecker 177A was just an ordinary antique shop. It sold some old furniture and antique clocks. The people inside were also innocent, and there was nothing wrong with them. It was understandable that the Ancient One Supreme Sorcerer was a master of the Father level, and she was very good at space magic. If she didn't want to show up, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not be able to find any flaws. Although the actor of the Ancient One was a woman, the official Marvel information did not have any gender at all. Let's just treat her as a woman. As for where the Ancient One was from, let's just say she was Chinese according to the comics. That's all I remember. The Ancient One suddenly appeared and threw a business card with an address printed on it near Thor's hammer. This matter must have something to do with Thor or Asgard. As for what their relationship was, Qin Xiao would have to go there in person to find out. It seems that he had to go to the opening ceremony of the Stark Expo. Qin Xiao, who couldn't wait for Thor, had to take the initiative to find him again. What surprised him was that this big fool had somehow reconciled with Jane. The two of them once again returned to the state where they would look into each other's eyes and sparks would fly in the air. He appeased this girl so quickly, and he must have said a lot of sweet words. This guy is a scumbag. Qin Xiao was indignant, but on the surface, he still comforted Thor a few words, saying that he had something to go out for and asked him to wait for him here. As for the Ancient One, no matter how Coulson reported to Nick Fury, Qin Xiao would go when he was supposed to go, and say what he should say when he came back, and he would not say a word that he shouldn't say. He flew all the way from New Mexico to New York, took the car and driver of Stark Company, and took himself to 177A Bleecker. This street is located in Manhattan, the most prosperous area of New York. I don't know how the three major temples operate. If the location can be changed, Qin Xiao would rather rent out the temple and move to a cheaper place. It would save the situation in Avengers 3 where Wang Tang, a wizard, was so poor that he couldn't even afford to eat. Standing at the door, he slandered the temple for occupying a busy street, which was a bit wasteful. After hesitating for a while, Qin Xiao was just about to reach out and knock on the door. A golden light flashed under his feet, and a portal appeared under his feet. In an instant, his feet were empty, and the whole person fell down along the hula hoop. In a study on the second floor of the corresponding temple, Qin Xiao fell out of a hula hoop. He fell directly on a single sofa. 3 full bookshelves on 3 walls formed a square, small partitioned study without a door. The 3 single sofas were placed in the direction of the bookshelves. After Qin Xiao fell, there was an empty sofa on the right-hand side, and in front of him was the Ancient One who was holding a book and reading. It was the Ancient One's spell that allowed Qin Xiao to go directly from the door to the second floor, but after he came, the Ancient One did not speak, but just silently lowered his head to read. This is the benefit of having strength. You dare not speak when you are pretending to be cool. If it was an ordinary person who called him over and lowered his head to read a book without saying anything, Qin Xiao would definitely slap him and make him fall to the ground, and the book in his hand would fly into the sky. However, The person in front of him was the supreme mage Guyi, so Qin Xiao only complained in his heart and did not dare to do anything. Of course, Qin Xiao has never been a person who sits still. Seeing that Guyi kept staring at the book and did not even look at him, he took out a cigar from his pocket and started puffing smoke in front of Guyi. "I told you not to talk, so I sprayed it in your face to see if you choke." Qin Xiao, who was full of evil taste in his heart, took a deep breath and pretended to spray a large puff of thick smoke at Guyi. But the supreme mage is the supreme mage. Guyi did not even raise his head, and suddenly a golden hula hoop the size of an ashtray appeared in front of Qin Xiao. It was standing upright less than half a meter in front of Qin Xiao. As soon as this small portal appeared, the smoke Qin Xiao exhaled rushed towards the small portal. Qin Xiao looked carefully and found that there was a snow-capped mountain opposite. Although he didn't know where it was, it must be a place at a high altitude. The weather was clear and there was no wind. Due to the air pressure, Qin Xiao's place was windless and the smoke and the ashes on the cigarette butts all floated towards the small hole. The effect was the same as smoking with a small crack in the window while driving on the highway. In fact, if you really open a small portal in a room at a high altitude, it is estimated that all the books on the bookshelf will have to fly over. But don't worry about these details. After all, Master Guyi will always have a way, right? Awesome. An ashtray with built-in ventilation effect. The ashtray is good. If I have one in my bedroom, not only will I not need an air circulation system, but I can also save on trash cans. Qin Xiao was making small talk. At this stage, facing Guyi was indeed a little stressful, especially because he didn't know why she called him here. If you open one in your bedroom and encounter a blizzard, your house will be filled with snow in an hour. Are you sure you want to open one? I can help. Guyi smiled and looked up and said, I asked you to come all the way here? Don't you have anything to say? Or anything you want to ask me? Guyi finally closed the book and put it aside. Yes, of course I have questions to ask. Since I'm already at the door, you still use the portal to pull me up directly. Why don't you just pick me up from New Mexico? The air ticket is very expensive. Since Guyi started talking, Qin Xiao threw the cigar into the ashtray and asked a question that was definitely not the point. First of all, the air ticket doesn't cost me money. Secondly, if I go down to open the door for you, or open a portal to open the door for you, the energy consumption is almost the same as teleporting you up for such a short distance. Guyi waved her hand to close the small portal, and then answered Qin Xiao's question seriously. There was no way to refute what she said. I didn't expect Guyi to calculate the account so seriously. Qin Xiao had to follow her meaning and asked, I don't know what you want me to come here for? Probably because she asked the question that Guyi needed, she looked at Qin Xiao and said seriously, Odin and I are friends. He exiled his son to Earth and fell into a deep sleep. Of course I had to pay attention, but I was surprised because someone who shouldn't be there appeared. You shouldn't be in that place? So I'm curious, why did you appear in a place where you shouldn't be? And why haven't you been arrested by the Time Difference Mutation Administration? Chapter 66 The Terrifying Supreme Mage. Qin Xiao couldn't answer either of the two questions asked by Guyi. He could only pretend to be dumb and said, Sorry, I don't understand what you are saying. In his heart, he was frantically calling the system. System, shouldn't there be any problem with my identity after crossing over? Why did Guyi say that I shouldn't show up? Hurry up and think of a way. The system didn't pay any attention to Qin Xiao's questions, but spoke in his mind. Congratulations to the host. You have contacted the Supreme Master Guyi and left a deep impression on her. You will be awarded 500 points. It is detected that the host's total points have exceeded 5,000. After the system upgrade, the second level mall will be opened. The system upgrade starts now. Then there was a countdown. 47 hours 59 minutes 59 seconds. Hey, hey, Qin Xiao shouted a few more times in his mind, and the system was still in a countdown state. Damn it, Qin Xiao roared in his heart. When he came back to his senses and faced the Master Guyi, he found that Guyi had bent down and stood in front of him without knowing when, a face close to him. If the eyelashes of the two were a little longer, they would have touched directly. Ah, what are you doing? Qin Xiao was stunned for a moment, then shrank back with a scream. What's going on? What is he doing? Ancient One has lived for at least 1,000 years. Is he thinking bad things about himself? Who were you talking to just now? I can feel your mental fluctuations. It seems like you are communicating with someone. But there are only two of us here. Strange. Ancient One ignored Qin Xiao and asked on his own. Qin Xiao's heart was shocked. He knew that the Supreme Master Ancient One was powerful, but he didn't expect that she was so powerful that she could feel that he was communicating with the system in his mind. I really don't understand what you said. If there is nothing else, I'll leave first. The current Ancient One is not to be provoked, and can't be beaten. It is possible that she will accidentally see through his secrets. Qin Xiao still felt that he had to run away quickly. Even for a moment, he regretted taking on the task of Thor. You know, Odin is also a master of the father level. Who knows how many mysterious means he has? If these people find out that he does not belong to this world, who knows what they will do? In the case of not knowing who is the enemy, Qin Xiao's choice must be correct. But the difference in strength was too great, and it was not something that could be left at will. Interesting. I'll see for myself. Guyi was talking to himself, and as soon as he finished speaking, a pair of hands pressed directly on Qin Xiao's forehead like lightning. Qin Xiao felt his whole body stiffen, and a feeling of being unable to move in a nightmare swept over his body. He knew where he was, and knew that Guyi's palm was on him. He had all 5 senses, but he couldn't move at all. Damn it, they say that you are invincible with the system. I won't die here today. If I die, I will fight with big villains like the Purple Potato Spirit in the future. It's too aggrieved to die in Guyi's hands. $3 billion haven't been spent yet, and Black Widow hasn't slept yet. Qin Xiao couldn't even move his eyes, and could only complain wildly in his heart that it was not worth dying like this. Fortunately, Guyi only explored Qin Xiao's soul and mental fluctuations, and the feeling of being imprisoned came and went quickly, almost instantly. Qin Xiao regained his freedom and collapsed on the sofa. The feeling of not being able to control himself was really not very pleasant. After taking 2 deep breaths, since he couldn't win and couldn't leave, Qin Xiao's reckless spirit came up. What the hell do you want to do? If you have something to say, just say it. You come up and touch me and ask me questions that I don't understand. If that doesn't work, let's fight. Qin Xiao was so excited that he spoke Chinese. He never thought that Guyi could speak better than him. Hey, you are not big but you have a bad temper. You are so mysterious and you have so many secrets. I must uncover them and see clearly. You want to fight with me, are you sure? As soon as he spoke Chinese, Guyi seemed to have changed his temperament. He was no longer the mysterious person just now. Instead, he rolled up his sleeves very skillfully, shook his right hand slightly, and a golden energy whip came out. He made a hand seal with his left hand, and a circle of green energy was faintly visible on his wrist. Fuck. Qin Xiao blurted out these 2 words. It had been a short time since he crossed into Marvel, and Captain America hadn't been dug out yet. It's fine that you, Ancient One, disregard your status and attack, but you're just asking for the Time Stone. Qin Xiao had only seen the green energy ring on Ancient One's left wrist a few times in the movie, but he was deeply impressed. This is the Time Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. No matter what Qin Xiao thought in his heart, Ancient One heard Qin Xiao say fuck, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. He raised his left wrist and said, "You really know the Time Stone?" Qin Xiao secretly said that he was fooled, but the Infinity Stones were too threatening to him now, and he was just in a hurry. At this moment, if he pretended to be stupid and said that he knew nothing, he would be treating everyone as fools. In this case, Qin Xiao simply stiffened his neck. What's so great about knowing the Time Stone? You think you are the only one who can see the future, right? Haven't you heard of the Zauyu Bagwahicha Luoshu? I counted with my fingers and knew 500 years in the past and 500 years in the future. Seeing Qin Xiao admit it frankly, he started talking nonsense again. Master Guyi smiled slightly, removed the energy from his hands and said, "You are so stubborn. Don't worry, since I couldn't detect anything wrong with you just now, I won't force you to tell me, but your appearance does violate the laws of this universe, and even..." Guyi suddenly stopped talking halfway through. "Even what? Do you dare to finish your words?" Although Guyi removed the magic energy, Qin Xiao still slightly distanced himself from her and asked defensively, "If you don't tell me your secret, I will of course keep some tricks." "Boy, Do you want to cooperate with me? Cooperate on what? Qin Xiao was still a little uneasy because he didn't know what Guyi was thinking. I can't tell you what cooperation is for the time being, but are you interested in learning magic from me? Guyi sat back on the sofa and said with a smile, why should I learn any magic from you? Qin Xiao was still standing behind the sofa. Of course, he was interested in Guyi's magic. Apart from anything else, the portal was so convenient. Of course, Qin Xiao was full of vigilance against Guyi at this moment. He didn't know what Guyi was thinking at all, so how could he rashly agree? Yes, why do you want to learn magic from me? That's the question. Guyi touched his chin. Suddenly, he made a hand seal with both hands at the same time, and the pendant on his chest suddenly glowed green, and then slowly opened. An emerald green gem appeared on Guyi's right hand. Is this reason enough? Chapter 67, Promise with Ancient One. Qin Xiao never thought that Master Ancient One would throw out the Time Stone directly. In Avengers 3, Doctor Strange relied on the Time Stone to see more than 10 million endings in the future. And in Avengers 4, when Dr. Banner found Ancient One and said he wanted to see Doctor Strange, Ancient One directly said that he had come 5 years earlier, and he should still be doing surgery a few blocks away. This shows that Ancient One must be able to see the future. If this is the case, she should know that Doctor Strange is her successor and the next guardian of the Time Stone. Why did she say that the Time Stone should be handed over to her in the future? There is also the so-called Time Variance Administration. According to the trailer of Loki that Qin Xiao watched before crossing and what Ancient One said at the beginning, they should arrest everyone who disrupted what should happen in the original timeline. For example, Loki, who was destined to be taken to Asgard for imprisonment, actually ran away with the cosmic cube. Undoubtedly, she was also the one who destroyed the established timeline, so why didn't they come to catch her? Because of the system? If it was because of the system, then the Time Variance Administration could be blocked. So why couldn't Master Ancient One be blocked? What did she see in the future? Why must I go to Camartage with Doctor Strange to learn magic? Qin Xiao, who originally felt that he had opened a god's perspective in the Marvel world, now felt that there were layers of fog in front of him, waiting for him to peel it open bit by bit. I wanted to ask the system, but the system has been in an upgrade state. Why did it upgrade at this time instead of earlier or later? Qin Xiao became more and more annoyed, and kicked away a huge trash can beside him that was more than 1 meter high and more than 2 meters wide. The trash can made of iron sheets was kicked up by Qin Xiao with the trash inside to at least 2 floors high. A sparse rain of garbage fell from the sky. Don't think about it, let it be whatever it wants. Slowly develop to the end. I want to see who can touch me. Bang! Qin Xiao's speech ended with the sound of the trash can falling heavily, and he finally vented a little bit of his depression. Don't think about things that you can't figure out. Anyway, you have the system in your hand, and you can slowly wait for your strength to improve. Then you won't be afraid of anything. Qin Xiao comforted himself like this and was about to walk out of this deserted alley. Suddenly, he found the white man standing in front of him, holding a dagger in his hand and looking at him blankly. There were 2 twisted toilet papers and a blood-stained sanitary napkin on his head. There were also a few pieces of spaghetti with meat sauce hanging on the dagger. Judging from where he was standing, he should have been hiding behind the big trash can, holding a sharp knife and preparing to rob him. He was probably scared silly by the trash can kicked away by him. He was as thin as a lightning bolt, and he should be a drug addict. But seeing him standing still, Qin Xiao couldn't help but think of the guy who used the mantis fist in Shellen soccer. The standing posture was exactly the same. Robbery? Qin Xiao stepped forward and asked. No, you misunderstood, I'm eating. The robber raised the noodles on the dagger with a blank face, and shook his head, causing the sanitary napkin to sway in the wind. Eat here? Yes, the air here is nice, isn't it? Nice hat. Do you have any cash on you? $50. Is it enough to take a taxi from here to the Stark Industries branch? Enough. Give it here. Thank you. Qin Xiao took the money and patted the robber on the shoulder. Crack. There was a slight sound, and it was obvious that Qin Xiao had broken the man's shoulder blade with one palm. In the New York temple, Guyi, who had just looked like he had everything under control in front of Qin Xiao and looked like a Taoist master who could not reveal the secrets of heaven, sat on the sofa with a sad face after Qin Xiao left. How could this happen? What happened? Guyi muttered to himself while sitting on the sofa. After a while, Guyi seemed to have made up his mind. He sat cross-legged on the sofa, making seals with his hands one above and one below. In the middle of his palms, the time stone floated there, emitting faint green light. As the green light slowly spread, Guyi's body began to tremble violently, and the speed was getting faster and faster, and finally it left a trail of its own after-images in the air. At this moment, it seemed as if countless ancient ones were overlapping in the original place. Countless ancient ones' heads appeared at different angles, some in pain, some solemn, and some joyful. The shaking speed was getting faster and faster, and the frequency of the green light spreading was getting faster and faster. There were more and more phantoms on the ancient one. When everything was about to reach a limit, all the trembling phantoms in green light suddenly shrank and expanded. Everything returned to calm. Puff. Ancient One spit out a large mouthful of blood. His face was full of an incredible expression. Then there was a burst of ecstasy. Ha 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 ha. If Qin Xiao saw Ancient One like this, he would definitely think that it was not the same person he just saw. With bloodshot on the corners of his mouth, he sat cross-legged on the sofa and laughed up to the sky, like a madman. But Qin Xiao couldn't see all this. After robbing an unlucky robber and getting $50 from his pitiful body, he took a taxi straight to the New York branch of Stark Industries. It is called a branch, but actually after Tony directly set off fireworks in the industrial building in Los Angeles. In fact, more and more business centers are developing towards New York. After all, it is an international financial center. Otherwise, this Stark Expo would not be held in this place. Instead, the branch has become the headquarters. The taxi Qin Xiao was riding in just stopped in front of the building, and he just got off. A car horn sounded next to him. A very coquettish dark red convertible Acura NSX sports car stopped next to Qin Xiao. Who else could it be but Tony Stark? I remember I generously lent you my company's business car and driver. Why did you take a taxi back? You know, I'm rarely so generous. Don't mention it. I thought it would take a long time to come out, so I let the driver go first, but I didn't expect it to be done so quickly. Qin Xiao shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, it seems that you didn't have a very happy day today. Get in the car and take you to a place. I guarantee that your mood will improve immediately. Tony patted the co-pilot next to him. How about changing the car? A convertible is too high profile. And I don't like the color of your car. It's dark red and too coquettish. Tony, it's not my style. Tony's car is a limited edition. Even if you have real money, you can't buy it now. Qin Xiao suddenly remembered the way Tony looked at him as if he was a poor guy last time, and felt a little sour. Promise me that you will go with me to do something, and this car will be yours. How about it? I said. It's rare for me to be generous. Qin Xiao's eyes lit up, and he directly pushed Tony to the passenger seat. Tony? Huh? You know what? When I was a child, I heard from my parents that the specialty of my hometown is bayberry. Have you eaten bayberry? It's sour and sweet and very delicious. The ripe bayberry is the same color as this car. God, I like this color. It's the color of my hometown. Tony. Chapter 68 Secondary Mall. Facts have proved that there is always someone better. Although Qin Xiao is thick-skinned and has a strong wallet, he still cannot compete with Tony, a capitalist who has been circling in capitalist countries for decades and has a long history. He accepted a car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from Tony, but was dragged by Tony to cut the ribbon at a newly opened luxury apartment building. He was surrounded by a group of scantily clad receptionists, and Tony kept talking to him. Qin Xiao, who had just received a huge sum of money, couldn't save face and bought 2 duplex apartments with a total area of more than 1,000 square meters on the top floor. He spent tens of millions of dollars. After signing and paying, Qin Xiao still asked Tony with a confused look on his face, even if everyone will be in New York more often in the future, why do I buy 2 houses? No, my friend. You remembered it wrong. It's one house, and the other one is in my name. Tony shook his right index finger proudly. Oh my God, you must not have read the contents of the contract clearly when you signed it just now, right? How about being my neighbor? Are you surprised? My villa in New York is already very shabby, and the new Stark Tower has just started to lay the foundation. It will take at least 2 or 3 years to be fully built. You don't want me to live in a shabby villa in the next few years, right, my friend? Tony smiled like a weasel who stole the old hen. Tony, you just pulled me to go with you to cut the ribbon. That apartment building must have been built by your friend, right? Ask if you can get a refund. Qin Xiao turned his head woodenly and said with gritted teeth, unless the relevant unit issues a certificate of quality problems, it is absolutely not refundable. Believe me, that apartment building is a new industry under Stark Industries. I will not remember it wrongly. Tony pulled Qin Xiao into the car and took the initiative to take on the responsibility of driver. You mean, I spent the money of 2 houses to get one, and not only gave you one, but also bought a house built by your company, right? Relax, my friend, don't get excited, your hands are about to break the car door. My God, this is your car, Qin. Can I return this car? Qin Xiao was a little tearful. No, Tony Stark, will never take back anything I give to my friends. Tony answered firmly. Tony? My language function has degenerated a little recently. Can you translate for me what the fuck is a surprise? The house cannot be moved in immediately for the time being. Qin Xiao dragged Tony and rubbed Tony's presidential suite in the most luxurious hotel in New York for several days. He locked himself in the suite for 2 whole days and carved Tony Stark's name on the toilet dozens of times. Finally, the moment of the system upgrade was over. It was called a system upgrade, but in fact it was just the opening of the secondary mall. Secondary mall intermediate super serum, obtain the primary divine body of Asgard. In the state of not awakening divine power, the lifespan can be extended to 5,000 years. 3,000 points. Intermediate fighting skills, an upgraded version of primary fighting, which makes the use of skeletal muscle strength of the whole body more reasonable. The same physical fitness, strength and speed are at least 20% higher than those of intermediate fighting skills. 800 points. Intermediate weapon mastery, an upgraded version of primary weapon mastery, which makes the use of most cold weapons more like an arm, and has initially touched the threshold of human weapon integration. 800 points. D-level combat suit, an upgraded version of E-level combat suit, in addition to having the left and right functions of E-level combat suit, an additional 30% kinetic energy elimination. 700 points. D-level cold weapon customization, an upgraded version of E-level weapons, which can barely break high-end alloys, such as Iron Man's gold titanium alloy, but it is still not as sharp as cutting iron like mud. The toughness and firmness of the weapon are increased. 700 points. Primary space storage equipment, storage space of 10 cubic meters. The shape can be defined at will, such as rings, bracelets, watches, necklaces, etc. P.S. If you like, it is no problem to turn it into a diaper, as long as you don't mind the things in the space being submerged in urine. 1,000 points. The second level mall is open, and the prices have been upgraded several times. The points that were originally abundant in my hand suddenly became insufficient. After considering again and again, Qin Xiao finally felt that the iron must be hard. Nothing is more important than one's own strength. Gritting his teeth, he bought the intermediate super serum first. All of a sudden, the points were only a pitiful 500 points, and he couldn't afford anything in the second level mall. System, why is this intermediate super serum the body of Asgard? It seems to have nothing to do with the word super serum. Qin Xiao asked, a little puzzled, because the host had previously merged with the Hulk's serum. In order to ensure the healthy growth of the host's strength, the intermediate serum, which was originally only twice the effect of the primary serum, is of little significance to the host, so it has been slightly upgraded, and the points required are a little more than before. As for the name, it is all nonsense. Please don't pay attention to these details. The lifeless voice of the system sounded. Damn. It makes sense. I don't know how to refute you. Qin Xiao really couldn't find fault with this point. He completed the Hulk's random task by himself. If the intermediate serum only doubled the effect of the primary serum, it would really be meaningless to him who already had 30% of the Hulk's power. As for the space storage equipment, etc., it would be in time to buy it after earning points in the future. System, I have another question, about the abnormal behavior of Master Guyi that day, and the so-called Space Mutation Management Bureau, etc. Qin Xiao repeated his doubts. First of all, this is not a question. There are several questions here. Secondly, I am just an auxiliary host to gain strength in a more convenient and simple way. To put it bluntly, I am just a plug-in for thinking about problems. The host, as an intelligent creature, does not use his biological brain to think, but asks me, an auxiliary tool, if I know everything, why do I need you? The host, you are thinking about shit, damn. Being speechless by an auxiliary tool, Qin Xiao felt that his brain should be upgraded first. Since the system said so, Qin Xiao did not ask. Anyway, he had already decided last time, no matter what mess it was, just focus on strengthening himself. However, Qin Xiao had a feeling in his heart that the things in the second level mall this time, especially the divine body covered with the intermediate super serum skin, it must be related to Thor's mission this time. I am afraid it is to pave the way for going to Asgard to get Odin's reward in the future. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Thor's New Job. I don't know if I'm used to drinking the Hulk serum last time, or if my body has been fully transformed. This time I drank this so-called intermediate super serum. My body didn't feel too much pain, it was just a little stinging all over for a few minutes. Compared with the pain last time, this time it was just like being bitten by a mosquito. After drinking it, I also felt that my body was more resilient than before, and my ability to resist blows should have been strengthened a lot. However, there was not much change in strength and speed. I could feel a certain increase, but it was definitely not more than 10%. On the contrary, I felt an indescribable change inside my body. However, since it is called a divine body, it must have its unique advantages. I hope to go to Asgard in the future. This divine body can bring me some unexpected benefits. Otherwise, with only an Asgard body that has not awakened divine power, it is better to keep going on the road of the Hulk. Of course, the premise is that if you don't consider increasing your lifespan. Anyway, I don't have any divine position and divine power, unlike Thor, who can release lightning with his bare hands after awakening. The third level mall must wait until the total points exceed 10,000 points before it can be opened, which seems to be a long way off. However, there is also good news, that is, after the next mall upgrade, some products will be opened, and the host can buy them and give them to others for use. The current products are only effective when used by Qin Xiao himself. This solves Qin Xiao's worries. If he really finds a few women in this world, the lifespan issue still needs to be considered. He can live for thousands of years, and the people around him die one after another, and only a big fool is left in the end. That's meaningless. Is it gay? Is it good for others to have a goddess fiancé? After the boring opening ceremony of the Stark Expo, Qin Xiao was considering whether to find a big fool and torture him. A naughty child must be tortured to grow up quickly. Who knows that he suddenly received a call from Thor. Qin, I need your help. I want to find a job. The first sentence made Qin Xiao a little confused. Why did he want to find a job right away? Okay, the work is fine, but tell me your reasons. Qin Xiao put on a show and asked in an elder's tone. I have no way to regain Mjolnir's approval for the time being, so I can only follow Jane every day, but I am a man, and I can't rely on her every day to live. Do you understand what I mean? Thor said a little shyly. Are you disliked because you eat too much? Qin Xiao laughed and teased. No, Jane is very good to me, and I do eat a lot. What I mean is that Jane never asked me to do anything, but I must learn to support myself. Didn't you tell me that if I want to become a real god of thunder, I must first learn to be an ordinary person? I am learning how to be an ordinary person. Work, make money, treat my girlfriends to dinner, give her some small gifts, etc. Do you understand what I mean? Qin, you will help, right? Good boy. He dragged his feet and said a lot of reasons, and the last sentence of treating his girlfriends to dinner and giving her small gifts was the key point. Yes, the heir to the throne of Asgard should always have some self-esteem. In fact, it is not bad to find him a job, so that he can experience the life of an ordinary person, and he can take more credit when facing Odin in the future. However, if he is really allowed to work, if Loki still sends the destroyer down, innocent people will inevitably be hurt. Although Qin Xiao is not a saint, he cannot hurt other people's lives because of this. After thinking about it, it is better for him to go there first. In New Mexico, Black Widow was assigned another task by Nick Fury. Coulson is leading a group of scientists to study the hammer on the ground desperately. And thanks to the research data of Jane and others, it is almost certain that the so-called Asgard and the Nine Realms are real. They are somewhere in the universe, connecting the 9 worlds together through some subtle connections between spaces. You know, the research results of Jane and others have scientific basis. It is definitely not just the legendary Norse mythology. This caused Coulson to think of the bet about his hair when he saw Qin Xiao, and he was a little evasive. Qin Xiao didn't care, it was just a joke, and he was going to take the big guy out to see the world. Coulson still needed some help, otherwise, with the fake IDs that Jane and the others had someone make for a few $100s, any state patrolman could see through them. Originally, S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted to keep Thor and Jane in this small town, but when I think of the results of the research materials, if everything is true, then Thor is a time bomb. Who knows when he will cause some trouble. It's safer to have Qin Xiao around. Although Qin Xiao is sometimes synonymous with trouble, he has a lot of strength. Can you tell me what's going on with Bleaker 177A now? After talking about Thor, Coulson turned the topic back to the business card that suddenly appeared. After all, the space portal is a bit scary. Assassination, stealing intelligence. No matter what the consideration is, S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to control or master them. Qin Xiao certainly understood Coulson's thoughts. I advise you not to go after them. This is an organization on Earth. They have fighting power comparable to that of Odin, the father of the gods. This time, they are mainly for the matter of the big guy. In fact, their leader is a friend of Odin. Qin Xiao's ambiguous answer certainly made Coulson feel uneasy, and he said anxiously, "That's space teleportation. Do you know what it means?" I know you care about the safety of the world, but believe me, man, they have been protecting the world for much longer than you have. When they last elected a leader, it was at least 1,000 years before the electric light was invented." Patting Coulson's shoulder, who was a little stunned, to let him digest it slowly, Qin Xiao went straight to Thor and the others. "Your documents on Earth, passport, bank card, I deposited $100,000 for you in it, which should be enough for your expenses during this period of time on Earth." Qin Xiao handed Thor a manila envelope. $100,000? Why give me money? Just give me a job. It was obvious that Thor had not been with Jane for nothing in the past few days. He had already had a preliminary concept of money and a certain understanding of the common sense here. "An old friend of your father on Earth entrusted me to take care of you, so there is no need to find a job. After all, you are a prince. Follow me and experience the joys and sorrows of the people around you. If you must talk about finding a job, just be my personal bodyguard. This is your first month's salary." Chapter 70 A romantic encounter on the plane. With the words that Master Guyi mentioned casually, Qin Xiao now has more confidence standing beside Thor. At least the task given by the system has become legitimate. Even if Odin is standing in front of Qin Xiao now, Qin Xiao can tell Odin that Master Guyi said that he was entrusted by you to look after Thor. It is much more natural than the original identity of a fortune teller. So Qin Xiao directly told Jian and the others this time. "Thor has caused a lot of trouble to everyone recently. As a thank you, I would like to invite you to go to Monaco to watch the Formula 1 race." The way he spoke seemed to have a bit of Thor's guardian on Earth. Qin Xiao did not tell Thor in detail about Master Guyi, but only mentioned Odin's old friend on Earth. So in the face of Qin Xiao's sudden enthusiasm, Thor could only explain to Jian in this way. "Good friend of the father of gods, are they the ancient gods on our Earth, God, Zeus, or some other gods?" Jane immediately took out the look of a scientist seeking knowledge and asked with great interest. The appearance of Thor made her fully confirm the value of her previous research. So she has been fascinated by some ancient myths and legends recently. It's just a human who knows some magic. The so-called gods are just intelligent civilizations with a higher level of evolution. The gods of Asgard are no different from the people on Earth except for their power. Even the degree of social openness is not as good as ours. Qin Xiao shrugged his shoulders without comment. He turned to Thor again. Thor, this is what Odin wants you to understand. Jane smiled and said nothing. She had no objection to being able to stay with Thor. On the contrary, Daisy, another student of Eric Shavig, suddenly showed great enthusiasm. F1 World Championship. I have long wanted to go to see the scene. Handsome guy, do you cover the round-trip air tickets? After seeing Qin Xiao smile and nod, Daisy jumped on the spot and started cheering. You guys go. I still have something to do. Dr. Eric Shavig suddenly said. Eric, come with us. Thanks to your care recently, I hope I can do something for you. Thor advised sincerely. I just got a new job. Like Mr. Qin, I became a consultant for the Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. They have a research project that needs my participation. I am very interested. In the movie, Coulson confiscated the research results of Dr. Eric Shavig and Jane, and finally let Nick Fury find Dr. Eric Shavig to join the development project of the Cosmic Cube. It seems that the appearance of Thor and the ancient organization mentioned by Qin Xiao made SHIELD feel a sense of crisis. Nick Fury began to recruit troops in advance to use the Cosmic Cube to develop weapons. Congratulations. Jane and Daisy both stepped forward and hugged Dr. Eric Shavig. This old man has genius skills, but he liked to study some illusory things in the first half of his life, and no one recognized his research. Finally, someone who knows what they are doing came, and they were all happy for him. I don't know if it's because the money came too easily, or if he just let it go after being ripped off by Tony. Qin Xiao, who has always been a bit stingy, directly chartered a private plane this time. Oh my god, I thought I would have to sit in a seat for more than 10 hours, and I even prepared a neck pillow so that I could have a good rest on the plane, but I didn't expect. I mean, this is too cool. Qin Xiao chartered a big plane with 3 small bedrooms, a living room and a small bar, and a small KTV. Daisy threw away the pillow hanging on her backpack as soon as she got on the plane. Jane was obviously much calmer, but she was still excited to pull Thor around to visit. I want to take a selfie with every corner here, enough for me to brag about on social networking sites for half a year. Daisy raised her phone and took a picture of herself. Then she sat directly opposite Qin Xiao and said with a curious look on her face, to be honest, you are richer than I thought. Is it true that, as the newspapers say, you and Tony Stark are? Daisy stretched out her 2 index fingers and bent them a few times. I mean, this is such a pity. Well, I mean, it's a pity for both of you. After saying that, she secretly glanced at Qin Xiao. It's still a pity for you. He's older. First of all, I'm not a lesbian. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand to bend Daisy's fingers. Secondly, even if I were a lesbian, I wouldn't look for a jerk like Tony Stark. Then do you have a girlfriend? Hearing Qin Xiao say that his sexual orientation was normal, Daisy got straight to the point. This was very explicit. Qin Xiao said that he was a little embarrassed. Logically, Natasha and the others had not officially established a relationship, but if they said they hadn't, they didn't seem like ordinary friends. Adhering to the principle of treating people sincerely, Qin Xiao spoke a very shameless truth. Girlfriend? Not tonight. Haha. Daisy giggled twice. I'm asking about tonight. Okay. Qin Xiao thought that he should rent a smaller plane. In fact, 2 bedrooms are enough, right? Daisy had just graduated not long ago. She was straightforward and liked to play. In fact, she had no intention of settling down. Qin Xiao was young and rich, and he looked pretty good. He also had the aura of a superhero. He was a good person for Daisy to have a casual relationship with. It just suited Qin Xiao's taste. But he didn't expect that the first time he had sex in the Marvel world would be on the plane. Could this be considered an airplane sex? There was a special chef on the plane. The 4 of them had a delicious meal and went crazy in the KTV for a while. Then Qin Xiao and the big guy took the 2 girls into the bedroom respectively. In the next 10 hours, they never came out again. Imagine the content and the ellipsis. Thank you. The Principality of Monaco is the smallest country in the world except for the Vatican. It is surrounded by France on 3 sides and is only close to the Mediterranean Sea. The total area is only 1.98 square kilometers, and the population is less than 40,000. It mainly relies on the gambling and tourism industries and is one of the richest countries in the world. Of course, the rich here is definitely not talking about the total economic volume. In addition to the casino and various gossips about the royal family, Monaco is most famous for its F1 Formula 1 track that runs through the stadium and city streets. The description here can correspond to reality. Those who are interested in their royal gossip can search Baidu by themselves. Well, it's quite interesting. World-class F1 Formula 1 competitions are held here every year. Players from major teams, bosses of behind-the-scenes consortiums, etc. will flock to this small country, adding a lot of color to the local tourism industry. This small country does not have its own airport. It's really too small, and generally those who want to go to Monaco will choose to land at the airport in Nice, France, the closest city to it. Qin Xiao is of course no exception, but he didn't expect that he would meet someone he knew just after getting off the plane. Chapter 71 Justin Hammer's Invitation. Look who this is. This is our superhero Qin Xiao. I'm so glad to see you. This plane is really nice. I'm Justin Hammer. Maybe you've seen my photo on the cover of Time magazine recently. That's nothing compared to what you've done. Qin Xiao didn't expect to meet this guy. He's not a villain, not even a good guy. He's more like a clown in the movie, and he even deliberately imitated Tony Stark. Qin Xiao didn't expect that Justin Hammer would be so enthusiastic when he saw him. Not only did he come up to greet him, but at the end he even stretched out his hand to make a gesture of Qin Xiao holding a tang sword to cut open the leg armor of Iron Overlord. I have to say, your sword is really cool, by the way, compared to that guy Stark. I'm a loyal fan of yours. Justin Hammer stretched out his right hand towards Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and shook hands with him. This is a contradictory guy, who has always regarded Tony as an opponent, and also regarded him as an idol. He has been imitating Tony's style of speaking and walking, especially after Tony recently announced that Stark Industries would no longer manufacture weapons. Justin Hammer's company was overwhelmed with orders from the Ministry of Defense. Not only did the company's stock price soar, but it also appeared on the cover of Time magazine several times in a row. This made him even more complacent, thinking that he had firmly surpassed Tony. Unfortunately, Tony's Iron Man armor was born. No matter how many orders the company had, in the hearts of outsiders, Tony was still the well-deserved number one. Looking at the man in front of him who was trying to act like Tony, Qin Xiao felt a little ridiculous. He was imitating others, and his jumping up and down and thinking he was humorous was completely different from Tony's inherent cynicism. Hello, Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao didn't plan to say anything more to this guy who looked extremely awkward, and was ready to leave with Daisy and others. Unexpectedly, Justin Hammer stepped in front of Qin Xiao and blocked his way. Wait a minute, I have something to talk to you about. Are you going to watch the car race? Me too. There's a helicopter waiting for me over there. I think we can go up and chat together, if you don't mind. Are these two beautiful ladies and strong handsome guy your friends? Together? As the saying goes, if you don't take advantage of an opportunity, you're a bastard. Anyway, I have to find a way to get there, so it's really a good idea to get on a helicopter. Qin Xiao nodded slightly. Justin Hammer cheered, and hurriedly ran to the front to lead the way. I don't like this guy, he speaks in a weird way, like a stage actor, Thor commented very straightforwardly. I don't like this guy either. I bet he has no good intentions when he comes to you, Daisy said, holding Qin Xiao's hand. The two of them made rapid progress on the plane. Daisy was quite satisfied with Qin Xiao, and Qin Xiao was also along the way did sweet do. So the two decided to continue this fleeting relationship until the end of this journey. It doesn't matter. We just happen to lack a means of transportation. That helicopter looks good. Compared to Tony Stark, Justin Hammer is more like a pure businessman. He is no worse than Tony in terms of material, and it can be said that he is even better. The helicopter that came to pick him up was a modified Mi-26 developed by the former Soviet Union, with a length of more than 40 meters. It is simply the size of a small passenger plane, and the decoration inside is like a small nightclub, which is quite exaggerated. You know, our company is developing armor for single-soldier combat, just like Tony Stark's Iron Man, by Ubi. But ours is bigger and stronger. This is a project jointly developed with the Ministry of Defense. I believe that the finished product will appear soon. As soon as he got on the helicopter, Justin Hammer pulled Qin Xiao to find a sofa to sit down, and came up with a few words without beginning or end. But I heard that your project has been suspended after Tony played your experimental video in the Senate last time. Qin Xiao mercilessly exposed his scars. A few days ago, he was simply hit by Tony's dimensionality reduction in the Senate. That was just for outsiders to see. In fact, we have been continuing and even signed a secret agreement. Justin Hammer looked proud. Then I wish you success. I just don't know what this has to do with me. Qin Xiao was not polite at all and said in a stiff tone, to be honest, we have signed a contract with the Ministry of Defense. The order is definitely there, but the people don't think so. They need our country to have a more powerful armor than Iron Man to protect their safety. The people need confidence, and you are their confidence. Me? Qin Xiao was a little puzzled. Yes, it's you. Tony was defeated by Obadiah's Ironmonger. It was you who defeated the big guy. Everyone saw the video. Tony was sitting on the side in tatters. It was you who defeated him, wasn't it? At the Stark Expo, I will apply for a booth from Stark Industries to display our new armor. I hope you can attend and fight with our armor a little bit on the spot. You don't need to be serious, just act. Do you understand what I mean? Qin Xiao certainly understood what he meant. This guy wanted Qin Xiao to lose to his armor in public, so that he could show the whole world that he was stronger than Tony Stark. This was not only what he meant, but there was also a little bit of politics in it. You know, just a few days ago, Congress held a special hearing to ask Tony Stark to hand over his armor. No matter what the purpose is, the government hopes that the weapons in their hands will look stronger than Iron Man, even if it is only superficially strong, just to make the people think it is strong. Of course I understand. I will try my best to create some earth-shattering effects, and then be defeated by your armor, right? Qin Xiao said with a smile. Bingo. Justin Hammer snapped his fingers. That's what I mean. Of course, we won't let you work in vain. I will give you an endorsement fee according to the celebrity with the highest commercial value in the world, and you will also gain the friendship of some members who have a lot of say in the parliament. Justin Hammer made his own conditions. Qin Xiao wanted to tease this guy and then directly refuse. Then, I don't know what he thought of, and a smirk hung on the corner of his mouth. Of course, no problem, but we have to talk about the endorsement fee. You know, I have to lose in front of the whole world. This is about my honor as a superhero, isn't it? How much is it worth? For Justin Hammer, nothing is more important than defeating Tony Stark. Unless he really develops an armor that can defeat Tony, there is no one more suitable for this matter than Qin Xiao. The two of them were willing to fight and the other was willing to be beaten. And soon the most expensive endorsement fee in history was born on the helicopter. Chapter 72, Whiplock appears. Monaco, Grand Hotel de Paris, the most luxurious hotel in Monaco, bar none. I don't know if it's the most luxurious, but this hotel is right. I took a special look at Iron Man 2 and it's this hotel. For this race, the Monaco royal family emptied the entire hotel to entertain the team owners who came to participate in the race, or the wealthy and powerful who came to watch the race. Not only are there hotel rooms specially provided for them and their entourage, but there are also high-rise bars that can see most of the track as viewing venues. When Tony Stark came, Qin Xiao was chatting happily with Justin Hammer at the bar. Daisy and Jane were enjoying all kinds of top-notch food with the big guy in a car by the window. Hey, Tony, you're finally here. We've been talking about you for a long time. Justin Hammer was very good at seeing Tony in the crowd. Tony and Pepper had just come in when he spotted them at a glance. Oh, how could I forget you? Dear Miss Potts, congratulations on becoming the president of Stark Industries. Justin Hammer stepped forward, first kissed Pepper on the cheek, and then enthusiastically hugged Tony Stark's shoulders. Compared to Pepper, she gave Justin Hammer a polite smile and the least social etiquette. Tony almost wrote the words "I hate you" on his face. With a look of disgust, he pulled Justin Hammer's arm apart. not even bothering to look at him, and went straight to Qin Xiao and said, "I remember you seemed to tell me that you have no interest in racing. Why are you here with this guy? I have to say that your taste in making friends has been getting worse recently. Come over and chat for a few words." "Okay." Qin Xiao picked up the 2 glasses of wine that the waiter had just mixed from the bar and walked towards an empty seat by the window. "We still have something to talk about," Justin Hammer said behind Tony just as he was about to leave. "I'll return Qin Xiao to you. You sit here and have a drink by yourself and look at the beauties around you." Tony patted Justin Hammer's shoulder in a childish tone, then he walked straight to Qin Xiao's table. "Well, I've also arranged for a female reporter to interview me anyway," Justin Hammer muttered weakly behind him. He stretched out his hand to pick up the cocktail he had just asked for from the table, but it was empty. "Hey, that glass of wine is mine. Why are you walking with this guy? I hate this abominable clown. Seeing his face reminds me of the apple pie that fell into the gorilla cage and was stepped on by the gorilla when I went to the zoo as a child. Ha 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 ha." Qin Xiao imagined the scene in his mind and laughed. "Damn it, I swear I will never eat apple pie again. That guy wants me to endorse their upcoming armor. I was defeated by his armor in public at your expo. $350 million US. Haha. He must hate you to death. That's why he offered such a high price." Tony has been dealing with government people for half his life, and he is very clear about the dirty tricks here. In order to deceive the people's political significance, they want to defeat me. But they don't dare to come to me, and they can't make anything decent, so they want to use money to knock you down. Damn it, it sounds like your job is the same as the blonde girl in the red light district of the Netherlands. You won't agree to him, right? I haven't signed the contract yet. When he sends the contract to me, you can ask your company's legal department to help me check it out. After completing the performance in the contract, if I accidentally crush a few armors, will it be considered a breach of contract? Tony's eyes lit up. I suddenly have a lot of more interesting ideas. The two of them got together and started to mutter, and from time to time they also made some smiles that made people hear some inexplicable hair stand on end. In the movie, Iron Man started to be unruly and self-destructive because of the palladium poisoning incident. A series of actions he made later made people think that he was caused by palladium poisoning. For example, he gave the position of chairman of Stark Industries to Pepper Potts and personally raced in Monaco. It was not until the arrival of Qin Xiao, the butterfly, that Tony upgraded the arc reactor in advance, eliminating the threat of palladium poisoning. But Tony Stark still devoted himself to researching new armor in the laboratory, and still handed over all the big and small things of the company to Pepper Potts. This is a personality problem. If he manages the company peacefully, he will not be Tony Stark. There will always be unexpected things. For example, now, I'm leaving. It's my turn to go on stage. The driver of our team has not won a championship in 5 years, and has not even entered the top 3. I'm going to let him see what racing is. By the way, don't tell Pepper before I replace the racer. Tony stood up, looked around guiltily to see if Pepper Potts was looking at him, and hurriedly prepared to leave. "Tony, be careful." Qin Xiao smiled mysteriously. Thor was still eating and chatting with the two girls. Qin Xiao went over to say hello and said he was going out for a while. He went straight to the roof of the hotel from the fire escape. He needed to find a place with a wide view to enjoy the good show that would appear soon. In the employee rest area of a certain team, Ivan Vanko was sitting in the lounge with a match in his mouth. In a daze, he had prepared for today for nearly half a year. Not only did he successfully research the arc reactor, but he also did it for today's game, just for the opportunity to get close to Tony Stark. He had studied Tony Stark's behavior for a long time, and there was basically no regularity, except for this game. He would come every year, and after the game, he would come down to take a photo with his team. This was his chance. He wanted to seek justice for his father who ended his life in Siberia, in the ice, illness and unwillingness. He wanted to seek justice for the unfair treatment he had suffered over the past few decades. The wealth of the Stark family, the title of Iron Man, these were all stolen by the Stark family from their father. Just as he was recalling the unwilling look in his father's eyes before his death, the screen on the TV suddenly changed, from the track to the Stark team. It turned out that Tony Stark had put on his racing suit and got on the car. On the screen, Tony Stark was sitting on the car and waving, and next to him was the racer who threw away his helmet in anger. "You like to show off? Then I will kill you directly on the racetrack, Iron Man." Ha! Ivan Vanko looked at the high-spirited Tony on TV. Unconvinced, he opened the collar of his shirt, and under the faint blue light of the reactor, Ivan Vanko laughed crazily. Chapter 73. The villain wants to show off, but that doesn't exist. Tony's willful behavior caught Pepper off guard, but it made all the media and audiences who were broadcasting live cheer. Even the reporter who was interviewing Hammer personally ran to the TV and watched Tony Stark waving enthusiastically at the camera, and he was frantically thinking about what kind of exclusive interview he should have with him later. This is why wherever Tony Stark appears, it will definitely become the focus of news. Justin Hammer's face was uglier than eating shit. I heard from Pepper before that this female reporter had a very in-depth exchange with Tony Stark. He originally wanted to exert his charm to the fullest and trick this female reporter who looked quite good into his bed, at least to try to enjoy the pleasure of defeating Tony Stark in another battlefield. For this reason, he also specially ordered the people below to prepare some auxiliary drugs for him. Who knew? He drank a large glass of wine on the table in one breath in anger. Justin Hammer loosened his tie a little irritably. The next moment, the picture that suddenly appeared on the TV made him unable to look away. It was a rough man who was obviously of the fighting nation. He was dressed in the uniform of a maintenance worker of a certain team, and he had a sexy match in his mouth. He flipped out directly from the vehicle maintenance area inside the track. At this time, the race had already started, and the track was full of racing cars whizzing by. You should know that in F1 racing, the average speed of the drivers is more than 300 km per hour. A person suddenly appeared on the track. Sometimes he couldn't turn temporarily, and if he hit him, he would crush 8 of his 9 lives on the spot. As a result, this man from the fighting nation didn't stop coming out. He shook his hands and 2 whips appeared in his hands. Then he opened his orange-red work clothes. The miniature arc reactor emitting blue light on his chest began to output at full power. The energy flowed along the simple lines on his body to the 2 metal whips in his hands. The thin work clothes on his body turned into ashes and drifted in the air with the wind. The violent energy surged from the whip in his hand, and just by dragging it gently on the ground, it had already directly scratched small ditches on the surface of the track. Oh my God! This is just for me. Justin Hammer couldn't help but stand up from the table. The arc reactor. This definitely solves most of the energy problems in the world. It is said that Elon Musk took out a huge amount of shares in his company to exchange for the right to use this technology from Tony Stark, and promised to only configure it on his own car, but was rejected by Tony Stark. In fact, Justin Hammer and the military's project stayed at this stage. Even if all the weapon systems on the armor were uninstalled and the entire internal space of the armor was filled with the most advanced batteries, such energy cannot make the armor rise to a height of even 1 meter, let alone the energy consumption of continuous combat. Unfortunately, Tony Stark refused to hand over this technology even under the heavy pressure of the Senate. At this time, there actually appeared another miniature arc reactor that looked very mature. Looking at the violent energy on the whip, if it was installed on the armor of his company. Justin Hammer looked at the arc reactor, especially the simple equipment on Ivan Vanko and the rough face that obviously had not had a good life, and smiled with great pride. Unlike Justin Hammer, Qin Xiao was gritting his teeth in hatred when he looked down from the roof of the hotel. He walked on the track with a swagger, and even with so many whistling cars on the opposite side, his steps did not show any panic or confusion. He even had a match in his mouth. What a pony! Qin Xiao spitted at the rooftop in indignation. His right hand couldn't help but touch his nose and eyeballs. Last time he was showing off in Mexico, he was hit by a rocket launcher in just 3 seconds. Now I can still remember the pain in my eyeballs. Why do you, a villain, walk so arrogantly? Qin Xiao was getting angrier and angrier as he thought about it. He couldn't help but look around the rooftop. Ivan Vanko's appearance caused the rich and powerful in the bar of the Grand Hotel de Paris to exclaim in surprise, especially when he used the whip in his hand to split a fast-moving F1 car in half. The whole place fell into chaos. At this time, Happy took Tony Stark's newly developed Mark V suitcase armor and pulled Pepper into the car quickly and rushed to the track. The reactor on this man's chest was similar to the one on Tony's body. It was most likely aimed at Tony Stark. After seeing this scene, Thor stood up directly. "Thor, what are you doing?" Jane asked loudly. "Didn't you just say that this man was going after Qin Xiao's friends?" "Qin Xiao didn't know where he went. I'm going to help save his friends." After saying that, he ran outside like a gust of wind without paying attention to what Jane said behind him. At this moment on the track, the car driven by Tony had appeared in Ivan Vanko's sight. The body tilted slightly to the side, and a whip hit Tony's car fiercely. The violent energy was like a laser sword that was indestructible, and it directly cut off the head of the car. Tony sat in the half of the car and flew directly into the air. He turned several times before landing heavily on the ground. Then he watched Ivan Vanko shaking his two whips fiercely, walking towards Tony with murderous intent. Several racing cars behind him saw the accident in front of them, and they collided with each other in emergency evasion, exploding, overturning, and the wreckage of the racing cars splashed in the air. They all passed by Ivan Vanko, but did not cause him any harm. He turned a blind eye to the explosions behind him, and just walked step by step towards Tony Stark, who had just climbed out of the car. Before entering the attack range, Ivan Vanko deliberately shook the whip and hit the ground twice, trying to put more psychological pressure on Tony Stark. Just when Ivan Vanko was about to whip his whip to attack, a sharp sound of breaking wind was heard in the air. Ivan Vanko turned his head suddenly, and a black shadow came whistling. Bang! He couldn't even see anything clearly. Ivan Vanko only felt that his eyes went dark, as if something moving at high speed broke directly on his face. The head was subjected to a huge impact force, driving the body directly into the air, and hit the wire mesh next to the track. His head tilted and he fainted. Oh, yes, on the rooftop of the hotel not far away, Qin Xiao fiercely made a victory gesture. Chapter 74. Tony can't do it. The accident happened so suddenly that all the audience in the field had no idea what happened. The audience didn't know what happened, but Tony could see it clearly, because Qin Xiao was standing on the rooftop at the moment, waving a half of a PVC pipe that he had broken off from an unknown vent and greeting Tony. "I didn't expect that I had spent so much effort to make a portable armor, but in the end I was saved by this guy, but who made me have little combat power without the armor." Tony sat helplessly beside the wreckage of the car and gasped. Bang! The ground around him shattered, and Qin Xiao jumped directly from the rooftop to Tony's side. Wow! The audience on both sides of the track were boiling. Many people present were still fans of Qin Xiao and Tony's CP. Seeing the two of them in the same frame again, they couldn't help but scream, "Hurry up and stand up. There are many people shouting your name. You won't be scared to pee your pants, right? By the way, I'm afraid I can't throw it accurately. I just dismantled a lot of PVC pipes on the rooftop. I won't pay for this." Qin Xiao stretched out his right hand to Tony. Just as he pulled Tony up from the ground, a sharp brake sound was heard. Happy drove the car with Pepper and came to Tony's side. The two looked at Qin Xiao standing here, and then looked at Tony, who looked pretty good, and they breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. "You'd better take this with you when you take a shower next time, boss." Happy threw the Mark V directly next to Tony. "I will seriously consider it. I can't let this guy take the limelight every time, right? It's a pity for my first racing career." Tony took the suitcase and looked in the direction where Ivan Vanko fainted. The appearance of another miniature arc reactor brought a lot of crisis to Tony, and at the same time he felt very incredible. He was very confident that his technology could not be cracked by others, at least in the next few years, so he wanted to see the difference between that reactor and his own. It didn't matter. After a look, Ivan Vanko stood up from the ground. He whipped the car driven by Happy in half. It perfectly separated the little Pepper in the back seat from the Happy in the front. "Ah!" little Pepper screamed. Tony was excited. "Finally, it's my turn. You protect them and I'll deal with him. Next time you should find a piece of iron pipe." Qin Xiao pouted. He was a little anxious just now. He couldn't find the right thing after searching for a long time. It was not easy to recognize the PVC from such a long distance by pinching it. Who knew the guy could stand up so quickly after being knocked unconscious? "What kind of physique is this?" After Tony gave instructions, He put the Mark V on the ground, stepped on it with one foot, and pulled the handrail with both hands. The main body of the armor has been put on his body, and other parts have begun to extend, automatically finding the right position to cover Tony's whole body. After completing the transformation in a cool way, Happy and Pepper have already got out of the car and are protected by Qin Xiao behind them. A white light flashed in Tony's mask, and the armor has been fully activated. He stretched out a foot and kicked away half of the car that was blocking the road. In fact, Ivan Vanko was no longer a threat at this time. The attack he just stood up was definitely a subconscious attack. In fact, he was dizzy now, and his eyes were a little out of focus. He was swaying on the spot to keep his balance. Tony was about to activate the laser cannon to give the enemy a hard blow. Suddenly, a person jumped up from the wire mesh behind Ivan Vanko. He was holding a brick that he didn't know where he got from. He jumped up and grabbed the wire mesh with one hand, and kicked the wire mesh with his legs. He directly crossed the wire mesh that was more than 2 meters high, and fell to the ground while waving his right hand. The brick hit Ivan Vanko's head neatly. The man was very strong, and with the gravity of falling from more than 2 meters high, the brick was smashed on Ivan Vanko's head. Ivan Vanko, who was already swaying, fell to the ground with a bang. "I didn't know you were here. I ran for a long time, and finally it was not in vain. To defeat the enemy, you must ensure that he has no resistance at all, otherwise you will suffer." "Hello, Tin Man. I am Qin Xiao's friend, Thor, the god of thunder. You don't have to thank me." It was Thor who came down to help at the beginning. After knocking Ivan Vanko down, he preached and introduced himself. The laser cannon in Tony's raised right palm suddenly dimmed. "I didn't want to thank you. I was just wondering why I put on the armor." Tony looked up at the sky and said faintly, "Dot." When the police came, Ivan Vanko was still unconscious, and the arc reaction on his chest had been crushed into pieces by Tony's hand. The race has completely stopped, and a large number of reporters swarmed into the track. They all pointed their cameras at Qin Xiao and Tony. "I'm glad to see you two appear together again and defeat a criminal using high-tech weapons. I wonder if you two can make a scissors hand gesture again so that I can take a real classic group photo for the cover of our magazine tomorrow?" The fastest reporter opened her mouth and made her request before she even reached the two of them. This female reporter is a CP fan of the two of them. The last headline photo was actually a composite of the two of them taken separately. If she could take a photo of the two of them together this time, not to mention how the magazine sales would be, she felt particularly excited just thinking about it. The excited reporter didn't notice the expressions of the two parties at all. She excitedly took out a small camera she carried with her. In addition to the photos taken by the staff, she also wanted to take a photo for herself as a collection. She didn't ask Qin Xiao and Tony if they agreed. She took out the camera and started the countdown for the two of them. "Scissor hands. Thank you. Come on. 1, 2, 3, cheese." What responded to her were 2 middle fingers pointing straight up to the sky in the camera, and 2 people cursed her in unison as a bitch. Chapter 75 Palladium Poisoning. Ivan Vanko is still lying in the hospital, and it is estimated that he will not wake up in a few days. The competition has ended in vain. The 2 people who are annoyed by reporters don't care about shocking the world. One flew directly into the sky, and the other jumped directly from the ground to the roof of a nearby building. After a few big jumps back and forth, they disappeared from everyone's sight, completely ignoring how much ground on the rooftop they crushed. That night, on a yacht near Monaco, Pepper took over Stark Industries, and the mess left by Tony made Pepper busy like a top, spinning around the world. So as soon as the time was over today, Pepper flew away with Happy, who had become his personal bodyguard and driver. Tony was left with a depressed face. Of course, the main reason for Tony's depression was the 2 pairs of dogs and couples sitting in front of him. Although Jane and Thor were in a normal relationship, Tony still labeled them as dogs and couples in his heart. "Qin, you should have told me earlier that you would bring a female companion today. If I had known, I would have invited some cute girls to come up and play with you." Tony looked at Daisy, who was sitting next to Qin Xiao, with a face full of resentment. At the beginning, it was fine. Qin Xiao introduced him to the origins of several people, from Massacre to Jane's research on astrophysics. The few people chatted happily. Later, when they were almost done chatting and everyone was familiar with each other and began to relax, Tony felt a little jealous when the two couples occasionally showed some intimate actions. It's your own problem. In the past, when you called a girl, you didn't care whether she brought a female companion or not. By the way, there really aren't many girls around you recently. Qin Xiao frowned and thought seriously, as if it was almost after the Ironmonger incident. You don't really like me, do you? God, please send down a lightning bolt to kill this wretched bastard. I'm just a kid who just graduated, and this bastard is about to be 40 years old. Qin Xiao looked at Tony with disgust. Shit, my sexual orientation has always been normal. I've been too busy lately, remodeling the reactor, my armor, and joining the fancy dress club with you. Tony's face was rarely flustered. Qin Xiao knew that Tony wouldn't really like him, but Tony's performance still interested him greatly. You're not right, Tony. Qin Xiao raised his glass and took a deep sip, smacking his lips and said, come on, tell me, what happened? Is there something you can't say? Psycho. I don't know how good my body is, but about Pepper, you know, the two of us. Tony rarely talked about his feelings for Pepper, although we haven't officially established a relationship. It has always been like this. Of course I also want to be together directly, but we have a lot of things going on recently. Tony was a little helpless, and more afraid. He grabbed a lot of women outside, and he didn't even need to reach out his hands. Some people squeezed up on their own, but when he really met someone he liked, he didn't know how to speak. Even though he knew that Pepper was interested in him, he just didn't know how to say it. Qin Xiao tilted his head and thought about it. It seemed that it was the same in the movie. In Iron Man 1, Tony almost kissed Pepper, but then he was interrupted and asked by a female reporter about selling weapons to terrorists. He went to question Obadiah. Later, he finally wanted to confess before the press conference, but he didn't say it. Finally, after saving Pepper at the last critical moment of Iron Man 2, the two of them couldn't help but hug each other on the rooftop, and they really confirmed their relationship. One of them was cynical but insecure, and he didn't dare to express his true love. The other one saw that Tony was accompanied by beautiful women for a long time. He even arranged cars to send the girls in Tony's family away countless mornings. He felt a little insecure about Tony, so neither of them took the initiative to move forward. Outsiders couldn't help with this. Tony was destined to be sad alone tonight. Ivan Vanko was in a coma for 3 days in Monaco. Qin Xiao and Tony came to the hospital together shortly after waking up. I saw the earliest design drawing, and there was the name Anton Vank on it. Is that your father? Ivan Vank refused to speak, so Tony spoke first. You don't deserve to mention this name. Your family is a thief. A thief. Everything you have now should belong to the Vank family, Ivan Vank said to Tony calmly. It seemed that the attack on Tony failed, and he was not unwilling to be a prisoner at all. It was your father who wanted to use this thing to make money. He wanted to make it into a weapon. My father stopped him. It was Anton Vank who made a mistake, Tony retorted, and neither of them spoke after that. They just looked at each other, and they both knew in their hearts that this was not a question of right or wrong at all, and it was meaningless. After a while, Ivan Vank suddenly opened his mouth and said something like that. You lost, Stark. You lost from the beginning. Ha ha ha. Ivan Vanko laughed so hard that he couldn't breathe, and the handcuffs on his hands clattered against the bed frame. Qin Xiao and Tony looked at each other, and Qin Xiao scratched his head awkwardly. Is there something wrong with your brain? I used a PVC pipe, so I was a little stronger, but it shouldn't be that serious. Did Thor knock you silly? Hey, what are you laughing at? Ivan Vanko laughed so hard that he couldn't breathe, and said to Qin Xiao, you should ask Stark how painful it would be to die from palladium poisoning. Ha ha ha. Palladium poisoning? Qin Xiao pretended to be surprised and looked at Tony, his face full of worry from his friend. Ivan Vanko laughed even louder. Hatilda, it seems that your friend doesn't know about this yet. You should tell him that there are adverse side effects of having a reactor in his body. Oh, damn, Tony. Is this true? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Let's think of a solution together. What should we do now? Let's go to the doctor together. There must be a way, right? Oh, my God. Qin Xiao really cooperated with Ivan Vanko, but it was a pity that his performance was too exaggerated. Tony wanted to cooperate, but he couldn't help it and pushed Qin Xiao away. Your performance is too exaggerated. The performance style of the Broadway opera house 100 years ago was more natural than yours. It's disgusting. Oh, is that so? Not really. I have also read the book Self-Cultivation of Actors. I think I performed well just now. What do you think, Ivan? Qin Xiao asked Ivan Vanko with a smirk. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.